Good deal.
Is all I was thinking. That's all I was thinking. Like the beard, man. Looking good.
Thanks. It's I need to get. I'm looking a little homeless, or as they say in Ukraine, I'm looking a little Chechen. I got that from a girl, and I was like, okay, this is gotta fucking go. That's not good.
Great.
Perfect. All right, you guys ready to get started? We'll talk about batteries and all that as we move along. So. All right, lead heads. Welcome back to the Talking Lead podcast. This is our 10-year anniversary, 10 years of educating the uneducated here on the Talking Lead podcast. And I've got a couple of big announcements that we're going to talk about during this episode. But if you haven't had an opportunity, make sure you go back to our previous 2 episodes where we had the November edition of the Talking Lead AK Corner. So if you didn't get an opportunity, make sure you go check that out. We talked shotguns. We talked AK shotguns with the guys at Dissonant Arms, Mike and Lan. And we had a really good time there talking shotguns. And we gave some nice prizes away. Mike and Lan put up a magazine extension thing for a flared magazine for your shotgun. And there was something else. I can't remember what it was, but it was awesome. And then we gave away a 10-pack of U.S. Palm mags with one of their rare banana mags and patch and their super rare alien mag with a alien patch. It's like that green color. Have you seen those, Brian? You seen them yet?
I have not. This is a new and fancy surprise.
Yes. It's an exclusive at one of their, I guess, vendors or whatever. You can only get it from them. I can't remember who it is, but that's where you get it. You go back to that episode and you're going to find out. I got other things on my mind for this episode, so all that's just kind of gone over my head. So Leadheads, go back, check that out. And then the episode we had with Ton Jones, the former star of Auction Wars. Do you guys remember that TV show, Auction Wars?
Yeah.
Back in the, I don't know, was that the early 2000s or so?
It's the storage units, right? Like bidding on the mystery box?
Yeah, it was like the precursor to Storage Wars. That's kind of where Storage Wars stole its idea, was from those guys. So Ton Jones joined us, and he's with a company called Air Force Air Guns, and we talked a little bit about air guns and some hunting that he's been doing. And oh, by the way, Ton just happens to be a great cook also. So go check that episode out. I was trying to find my AK episode real quick, because there was somebody else on there. Where's it at? The AK Corners. Here it is. And then also joining us on that episode was our buddy Drew. You know Drew, Brian, from Century Arms.
Yes, sir. Problem causer extraordinaire.
He's hilarious. It's always a good time when we have Drew on the show.
Oh, he's great.
And then if you missed it and you didn't hear that episode, we made a big announcement that Century Arms is going to give us another BFT 47 to give away. So on the last episode of the Talking Lead AK Corner of this season's December episode, we are giving away another BFT 47 from Century Arms, ladies and gentlemen. That is awesome. And the way we're going to do that, Brian, is they said I could give it away any way that I wanted to. And
so we finally get to do the mud wrestling.
the naked mud wrestling contest videos, yes. However, I opted to go a more noble route, and we're going to raise some money for the Sheepdog Impact Assistance Organization. A great organization that is helps our veteran men and women, not only the military, but also law enforcement and our first responders. And we're going to raffle it away. So as you're listening to this, it should be around Thanksgiving. So November the 23rd, 24th, 25th. The week after this is when we're going to give that away. So, or not give it away, but we're going to start the raffle. So be listening, watching the social medias. I'll have links posted to Sheepdog's website for the raffle tickets. I don't know how much they're going to be or anything yet. That's all still in the works. But next week is when we're going to start it, and it's going to run until the 15th of December. And I'm going to postpone our normal 15th release date of the AK Corner to the 20th to give us plenty of time to raise as much money as we can for Sheepdog. But that's how we're giving it away. That's how you're going to be able to enter to win if you didn't win the last one, because we only gave one, so a lot of you didn't win, obviously. BFT 47 coming from Century Arms through a raffle. So I thought that might be a little better than mud wrestling.
Boo.
Boo. Well, if you didn't like that, how about this, Brian? I'm also going to do our 10-year anniversary huge giveaway with our friends and sponsors of the show. And that's going to start December and run through the whole month of December. And right now what we've got lined up is we've got an AP5 9mm from Century Arms.
Whoa.
And we also have a Tavor, I think it's an XG16. It's the green, OD green Tavor.
Righteous.
That we're going to have in that giveaway. And there's going to be more coming as far as the firearms. But we've got Mission First Tactical is going to be involved. SEAL 1. We've got our friends from ASP USA, Michael Hess. They make all the cool police gear, cuffs, and batons. And they've got the awesome flashlights you guys have heard me talk about on the show several times. So they were going to have some prizes. There's going to be others. So that's going to start December, around December the 1st, and that's going to run the entire month. And that's going to be through our Gleam thing like we've done in the past. So you'll go and you'll like and subscribe to pages and social medias and things like that of our sponsors. The more you do, the more entries you get. And again, another complete random winner for all those prizes. We'll have several winners on that. Everything's going to be divided up into separate prizes. It'd be nice, I guess, if one person were to win all that stuff, huh?
Oh yeah, we'll certainly have something for the prize table there. We're still sharpening our pencils on exactly what it'll be.
Nice.
Yeah,
we're excited for that too. So more to look forward to. Occam is going to jump in on that, and we've got several others that are going to yet. So stay tuned for that. So that's my big announcements, our big giveaways that's coming.
Rob would tell you that failing to prepare is preparing to fail. He's not a prepper, but survival skills, personal preparedness, and self-sufficiency are important skill sets in his book. His firearm of choice, the Kel-Tec RDB Survival, says a lot about him. This great compact bullpup rifle fits in a pack and tight spaces when he feels like bugging out. Unlike ordinary bullpups, the RDBS rifle redefines the concept of platform, offering a traditional rifle grip, balance, crisp trigger, and an adjustable buttstock. The RDB Survival delivers 5.56 ballistic performance in a compact package weighing 5 pounds 14 ounces. It has a patented downward ejection that allows for complete ambidextrous use with an intuitive safety and reversible charging handle. It's a get you there, never let you down kind of rifle. Innovation, performance, Kel-Tec.
I wanted to get that out of the way, and I want to introduce our very special guest. But before I do that, I want to welcome Brian back. It's been a while since Brian has been on the show, and this is our regular show. He normally joins us for the AK Corner. So, Brian, welcome back to the show. We're glad to have you back. I understand you went through a little sick spell there, and you're feeling better.
Yeah, there's the fall cold, the winter. Well, I guess it's winter now. We got a real early winter, and so we're just getting that that first run of crud that everybody in town is catching. But I'm vertical again, and super stoked to be on the show again. So thanks for having me, and stoked to be talking with our guest, who's one of my more favorite people out there.
Well, he's one of mine too, and he's going to have a lot of information for us this episode. And our very special guest this episode, ladies and gentlemen, is Neil Vermillion. I don't know if you've changed your nickname or not on the grounds, but it's the combat accountant. Since you have
it's still, yeah.
Since you have a new profession now, I'm calling you the combat crabber.
Yeah. So actually, funny thing enough, that actually might be changing back to the accountant side. I'm waiting on a job offer to come through to go back into accounting, but not cannabis this time. I'll go back into more traditional, legal in 50 states kind of ventures.
I got you. Well, I mean, you think that's going to be more fun than the crabbing?
Fun, no. But
Fun, no.
I don't know if you guys have seen, they've already canceled the snow crab and king crab season for the year in Alaska.
Didn't know that.
So I need to find something pretty rapidly. They're saying it's global warming and the water temperature up there is rising, but in reality, it's the Russian and Chinese drag boats that have been coming through and ripping up the sea floor with their nets and not letting the crab grow and mature. And so now we're out of an entire species that is soon to be on an endangered species list.
Damn, I did not know that.
There's some hope there, I think, and it's only because of the incompetence of the government. In the early to mid 80s in New England, the striped bass fishery completely collapsed in like the same way. Like they were all gone. Like the news article headlines these days are like, all the crabs are gone and we don't know where they went. And this, like I said, same thing in New England. And there does appear to be something that'll occasionally happen where a population will just bounce, or like one class will die, but the other classes are still around. And so I'm cautiously hopeful, only because of government incompetence, that they've missed where the crabs have gone. Now, I know that they don't migrate the same way that a bass does, but let's hope that they're just hiding. They've found the one rock they can hide under to keep away from the Chinese and Russians. But it sucks for the industry, that's for certain.
Well, it sucks for our taste buds too.
Well, this is a fact.
I love crab.
It should be okay. It's only up in the Bering Sea, and then the Tanner season is still open. So there'll still be crab available to people here in the lower 48. But just expect, like everything else in the world right now, a bit of a price hike.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Well, you know what I heard, and you just kind of zipped through it, was that our government or whoever is attributing it to global warming, but it's actually due to overfishing of the Chinese and Russians.
Correct. So this is somebody that I haven't been fishing for entirely too long, but the guys that I've worked with that have been up there for the last 40 years, that's what they're saying. Like, yes, there is a 1 or 2 degree increase in water temperature, but the in the free fishing areas up there that are outside of U.S. territorial waters, the Russians and Chinese are coming through and doing a lot of unregulated sweeping the bottom of the ocean for everything they can sell, and then killing and throwing back everything else. Whereas the U.S. government, because of how regularized we are, it's a very looked after sustainable fishery. At least they try to make it.
Yeah. So some news to look forward to, some disinformation when the government starts giving their global warming bullshit as to why the crabs are dying and the price hike for your crabs and at Red Lobster go up.
Yeah, and or hopefully, like Brian said, hopefully, they do these testings and these quota draws in the same places for the last 50, 60 years. So like Brian said, hopefully maybe they just ran off somewhere and they're not finding them, and they're all just hiding somewhere else. But
yeah, I don't think they're that smart.
I'm nervous about it.
But maybe it has something to do with the water temperature, where they're migrating to different temperature of water, which still has nothing to do with global warming. It's just the tides,
Yeah,
they do that. from century to century.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm glad that you're getting back into accounting. It seems to be something that you enjoy doing. But you also have another side gig, which we're going to talk about today. That's going to be the main focus of our show today. Is you took a little trip overseas to Ukraine and have been teaching some useful skills to those men and women over there.
That is correct. So I was in Ukraine from November 7th until October 13th, October 12th. So a little shy of a month. I took a month to go, but it takes about half a week to get there, half a week to get back.
So October to November?
Say again?
So October to November?
Yeah, sorry, I went the other way with that.
You went backwards. That's okay. Is that how they do it in Ukraine? Or do they go backwards?
I'm looking at my tickets on the bus to get me from Warsaw to Kyiv. So I was like, I read them the wrong way.
No problem. I knew what you meant. I just wanted to clarify. So you're there about a month over there. So what spurred this need for you to go over there and do some training?
So while I was in Alaska this summer fishing for salmon, the company that I worked with in Iraq back in 2016, when we trained the Peshmerga and fight ISIS, reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you have any interest in working with the Ukrainian military?" And I had always had an interest in that, going back to 2014 with the invasion of Crimea and the Donbass and all the fighting that we all saw there years and years ago now. But it just wasn't. It was on my radar, but it wasn't like I didn't have a personal connection to it like I did Iraq, and so I kind of just let it slip by. And it just so turned out we had a pretty abysmal salmon season this year in Alaska as well. So we don't need to harp on bad fisheries, but that seems to be a trend right now. So I had some free time. I had about a month window between shooting the Memorial 3-gun match. And then Sons of Liberty Gunworks, their carbine series. So I said, "Hey, I got 30 days here. Let's see if we can make this work." And they said, "Yeah, no problem." So they booked my flight and got me from Phoenix, Arizona to Kyiv, Ukraine, and then out east to the Donetsk, Donbass area.
So what kind of hoops did you have to go through to be able to make that trip?
Surprisingly, not that many. Come to find out, if you have an American passport, you can just go places and do things, right?
Huh.
It's like this wonderful stamp of no need for visas and no need for anything else.
Even if there's a war going on, you can go there.
Even if there's a war, yeah. So this time, I got a couple really interesting sideways looks from people, that's for sure. So going into, I landed in Amsterdam, then Amsterdam into Warsaw, Poland. Getting my passport stamped there, the woman at the immigration little kiosk, she goes, "Oh, so what are you doing in Warsaw?" And I was like, "I'll be here for like 12 hours. I'm not doing anything." And she's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Kyiv." She goes, "Ukraine?" I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Is there another?
Oh, yeah. She's like, "So American Legion or International Legion?" I was like, No, I have a job. I'm going to go work and train. And she's like, "For how long?" Like, she did not believe a word out of my mouth at all. I was like, "Oh, for 30 days, I'll be back. Here's my return flight. Here's where I'm staying. Here's, that. She's like, "Good luck." And I was like, "Okay." And so
was it a sincere good luck, or was it just like, nice to see you?
It was one of those, I hope to see you again kind of good lucks.
Oh, okay.
So then I spent some time in Warsaw, and then took a bus from there to Kyiv, and then once again at the Ukrainian border, I was actually carrying over another 2 duffel bags worth of stuff for my team. So of course they go through. I'm sitting there with one military-aged male who is the only military-aged male on this bus. Everybody else is female, because men of our age group are not allowed to leave the country, much less return if they've left, because now they're draft dodgers. So they're like, "Who is this very large bearded American man, and why does he have 6 duffel bags worth of equipment with him?" So they went through all of my gear again, looking for, they're like, "Where are your weapons? Where's your ammunition?" And I was like, "All that stuff's in Kyiv, all that stuff's in Donetsk." And they're like, "You're coming here without weapons and ammunition. I'm like, you don't allow me to. I come here with mine detectors and NBC gear and, all this kind of stuff. So then, they gave me a little hassle there. They delayed the bus by about an hour, and then I was on my way.
And that was it. You're there, ready to go to work.
Yeah, and the timing could have been better because they just started those UAV and cruise missile attacks the week before I'd shown up.
Oh, damn.
And there's an ongoing joke in the company of whenever Neil shows up, shit goes sideways. And, of course, it does. So I roll in. I'm looking at my so let's see. I rolled in Thursday afternoon. So I was there Friday. We go to the bar, have a great time. Kyiv is still open. It's still a normal city. Uber's activated. Tinder's very active. We can talk about that later. It's pretty fantastic.
Okay.
So we go out. I'm getting a lay of the city, kind of seeing the sights, kind of get my gear together. And then Monday morning is when the Russians like to attack in mass. And so that was also the day. That was the first, maybe the second blitz they had of 100 cruise missiles and these Iranian drones attack. So we're sitting there in Kyiv, outside the city a little bit, but still within Kyiv proper. And we hear the explosions. We're hearing stuff, and we're like, okay, this is normal. But then we hear small arms fire. We hear 25, 30 millimeter, 40 millimeter stuff going off, which is not your normal things in the area. We're hearing PKMs, we're hearing AKs, we're hearing like, what the hell is going on? Like, did they just invade from Belarus? Because that was the big conversation at the time, about a month and a half ago, where they were worried about that. So I was just like, fuck, like I haven't even zeroed a rifle yet. I haven't set it, like I've just set up my gear. Like we're literally in a ground battle. What's going to happen? I'm freaking out because this is kind of what happened last time in Iraq. We'll come to find out, the Ukrainian civilian populace, because these drones are so slow, they can shoot at them. So on this particular Monday, everybody decided to go out their balcony and try to shoot them down.
Nice.
And so, I'm
target practice.
Hand to God, the mayor of Kyiv came out and said, please do not shoot from your balcony at the drones. Let the emplaced AA guns take care of this for us.
So people are just like, this is like a turkey shoot or something. They're just going out and popping drones just off their balcony. With a beer in their hand or something.
Yeah, at 8 a.m. they're just out there just popping shots like it's the the international 5-stand course at your local sporting clays.
That's awesome. I'm sure you took part in that, right?
No, I was more concerned. Like my pucker factor was at about 100. I was super concerned about guys on the ground and me not knowing what's going on. And then we found out about that, and I was like, I hate everybody.
This is just another Monday for them, right?
Yeah. You get desensitized pretty damn quickly to those things.
Imagine. So when you got there, and you said Kyiv is open for business, and it sounds like they're going about everyday business. And all these missiles and everything, is it destruction everywhere, or what's it look like? What kind of condition is it in?
It's wild because Kyiv is a city of you can fact check me on this. It's probably 4 or 5 million people before the war started. Now there's maybe 2, so it's very depopulated. There's it's very reminiscent of like World War II. You'd see of the are they called hedgehogs? Those big steel kind of
the big tank blockers.
Yeah, so those are on every highway. A lot of times they're just piled up on the side, waiting to be reused again. There's bunkers on the roads, freeways everywhere, side roads. There's checkpoints. You got to have your passport with you whenever you're traveling around. There's rolling blackouts from power. So it's not thriving, but they're trying to thrive. Yeah. So, for example, like I said, Tinder's active. So I went on a couple dates while I was there, and my first one, I went to this.
It's pretty sad. You got to go all the way to the war-torn Ukraine, to get a date.
Oh, I can't get a date here back in Arizona to save my life. But I'll tell you what, they love large bearded Americans in Kyiv, and they are all, between 5'4", 5'9", skinny Eastern European models. Every one of them. It is ridiculous.
Now I want to go.
I highly recommend it. I might go back just for that.
I'm going to set up
my
a
buddies
profile.
We're joking about bringing home war wives. But I digress. But we went to this Georgian restaurant, and it was the power, they run on a generator, so they only had minimal stuff in the kitchen. They had candlelit tables, which was set the ambiance, but like I can tell wasn't the idea. And so they're running on low power, so like they're keeping things going. They're not letting it affect them, but it's you can definitely tell there's a war very close by. And obviously, the closer the war you get, the way more severe things get. But in Kyiv, there's like a hopeful optimism to everything, at least at the time. Nowadays, it's gotten a little more depressing because we had the first snow.
Yeah, I was going to say the weather's starting to, the winter's hitting over there now.
Yeah. So, the weather's coming in pretty hard. And they had the first snow, getting diesel for the generators in Kyiv is an option. Outside of Kyiv, some places not so much. Getting firewood, prices are starting to go up. It's like a weird of like it's like you're in downtown Manhattan if the rest of New York had been invaded. Almost kind of feeling it's a very strange, hard to describe. Of like everything is fine, but everything is really not okay at the same time.
Compare that to when you said you went over to the Middle East. Compare the situation that you were just in versus that situation that you were in, as far as the.
It's the Middle East feels more like a war zone, everywhere. At least to me, it did. Ukraine feels like a war zone at certain parts of the city. Like if you go down in downtown Kyiv, they have the destroyed Russian armor display. So that's like very in your face. The graveyards that are all strewn throughout with all the fresh things, the memorial signs. So it's the war's there, but like then you can also go to McDonald's that has a 20-minute wait because they just opened the one in Kyiv.
Oh wow.
So it's a very
and I guess what I was thinking is maybe like the demeanor of the locals. It sounds like they're a little more optimistic and like you said, thriving versus probably what you experienced in the Middle East.
They're trying to be. They're trying to put on a good face, but at the same time, you talk to these girls and they're like, I slept in my hallway because I'm afraid that a cruise missile is going to hit the side of my building and I don't feel safe in my apartment. So it's like they're very. I will not let this affect my life, but then, I guess kind of behind closed doors, they're a little more scared of what's going on, rightfully so. And you have to have the conversations in the way I kind of, being an accountant and using my brain and rationalizing numbers and stuff. I was like, you look at the statistics. I mean, they're launching, two of these missiles will hit Kyiv and maybe 11 or 12 people will die. Sometimes only one or two. Statistically, you're more likely to get in a car accident on your way to work and die doing that than you are to get hit by one of these missiles and being killed. Granted, it's terrifying to think about because you're used to the vehicle accident being an always constant thing, but this is a new threat that you do not used to dealing with. So of course that's what you hyper focus on.
Sure.
But it when you have that kind of conversation, rational time with people, they go, oh yeah, okay, so I guess it really isn't that bad. I'm like, but then the next strike comes on a Monday and then all that goes out the window. And
yeah, and I guess as far as them welcoming you there versus the Middle East, I'm sure that's a whole different experience too.
Oh, yeah. The Ukrainian people are extremely, word I'm looking for,
thankful.
Yeah, I'll say not beneficial, but yes, thankful. Like they love us. They absolutely like. You go places, and I saw this in outside of Herbal when I was there.
Appreciative, maybe that's a better word. Appreciative.
Say again?
I said appreciative. Maybe that's a better word.
Yeah. They're there's a couple reporters that were with us my first couple days that were getting the lay of the land, and one of the guys had a friend of his that owned a cafe, and he said, "Hey, this woman, she just wants you guys to come have some coffee." And she just wants to say thank you. And I was like, I haven't done anything. he's like, yeah, but like you're here. And to her, like she's been here, a lot of people left Kyiv after the invasion. And when the Russians were super close and they took over the airport and they were slowly pushed out. And this woman stayed there the entire time. She kept her cafe open the entire time. And we just went, so she gave, we went and had some coffee with her, and she just wanted to say thank you and give us like all a big hug. And it was super cool to see. It was super sad, but it was super cool to see that sort of, in telling her, look, I haven't done anything. I got here yesterday. I've done nothing for your country. I've done nothing for you, but I'm here to do something. And I think that like that's what she needed. I'm glad that somebody from America, from NATO countries, is physically on the ground here and is in Kyiv and is doing something about the situation that's going on.
Right. Well, this is, like you said, the fact that you were there and you were willing to and you're getting ready to, so makes sense. But yeah, the gratitude that I guess that they were showing you versus when you were in the Middle East, probably completely different, two different types of, again, I'm searching for words here too, but I guess feelings of whether they want you there or they don't want you there kind of deal.
Yeah, there were in the Middle East. There were still a lot of people I saw that didn't want us there or were skeptical because they were so used to seeing white Americans there for so long.
Yeah.
But Ukraine is definitely like, oh, there's other like people like me that are here. The cultural differences are pretty big, but it was I definitely felt more welcomed in Ukraine than I did in the Middle East. Like I would get in taxis and just a 40-minute taxi ride to go to dinner in Kyiv and not worry about it at all. Whereas even when I was in Erbil and I had my own Hilux, I was like, all right, we're bringing a gun. We're like, we don't really trust these people 100%. We trust the areas, but who really knows? Yeah. But in Kyiv, like there was zero concern about in personal safety. There was, everybody there was like,
everybody's on your side. You don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. And I want to talk about more as we get into this. We got a lot more to talk about. But before we do that, Neil, we do this little segment. It's called the Planes and Trains. And we take care of some Jackwagons and we honor some Leadhead Brigade heroes. And we're going to do that real quick before we continue on with your story. So, Gunny, bring that train in.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
All right, the train has stationed, and I've got a couple of Jackwagons that I want to take care of, and then I know we've got at least one so far listener Jackwagon. So I'm going to go to the listener Jackwagon first, and this comes to us from Leadhead Giddy Up, Jonathan Gallup. And as everybody knows, the elections, we just went through one of our election cycles here, and I guess we're still doing it in some of the states. They're still battling it out. But Jonathan says, Lefty, Michigan lost all lawmaking bodies to the Dems last week in the election, and the governor is still Gretchen Whitmer. Isn't that the one that they tried to kidnap? Gretchen Whitmer?
She's the one that the FBI tried to kidnap, if that's what you mean, and then set up some yokels.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the one.
Got acquitted. So, yeah, the FBI totally tried to kidnap her. Sorry, please go on.
You said those guys got acquitted?
Oh, yes, sir, they did.
Oh, nice. Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, no, they got set up. I didn't study super carefully, but there was an FBI agent or informant who got the dudes high and then slept with them. And I'm sorry, but most men don't have, once you've gotten them high and gotten them laid, you own them at that point. And I believe that came out in the case and was not helpful to the prosecution. But there was basically, like, there was a group of 5 dudes and 3 of them were FBI related people. And they were the ones who came up with the plan and everything. Well, see,
there you go. You don't hear that story. They don't talk about that in the news, in the media.
I'm aware, but you can find it. It's pretty great.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm gonna have to look that up now. So Giddy Up goes on, says basically minutes after the election, they began their gun control business again. And he provides a link, but what a load of hogwash, he says. Nomination is obviously the opportunistic Dems and the idiots who help vote them in. This hasn't happened in 40 years, and when they had control last, Flint, Detroit, Lansing, and Grand Rapids were all rotting from the inside. I'm beyond pissed off because of this. I wonder why. You basically don't even need to look at the link. It's all the tried old talking points. 10-round mags, safe storage, the return of the almighty gun boards. Don't get me started on those. Same stupidity, different day. So anyway, I hope this message finds you and yours well and in good spirits. So that is a great nomination there. Giddy Up. Thank you for sending that in. And yes, they definitely are going to get a ride on the Jackwagon train. You guys have anything to add to that?
All gun laws are infringements.
Yeah.
And like, if you're waiting for somebody to come save you, go to the bathroom and look in the mirror.
There you go. All starts with you. All right, y'all have any Jackwagons? Neil, you got a Jackwagon? Got anybody want to throw on the Jackwagon train? Let me do mine. I've got one here. And this comes to us from Texas. It says, Texas mystery man dubbed Edward Scissorhands cuts neighbors' trees overnight. So it says, neighbors want to nip this vandal in the bud. A mystery man who residents have dubbed Edward Scissorhands has been bizarrely snipping branches off residents' trees late at night in Fort Worth, Texas, stumping cops and neighbors. The self-appointed arborist oddball has trimmed at least a dozen trees on streets in front of homes in the area and was caught on camera several times mid-snip, according to CBS. Sometimes he'll just take a little bit, but then other people's trees, he'll take massive gobs. Neighbor Ashley somebody fumed. Now, they're pissed that this guy is going and trimming their trees. He's not like cutting them down or anything. He's actually trimming them and making them look nice. And these people are upset about this.
I was going to ask, in what context? Like, is he just like shaving off a side of a tree, or is he like trimming the tree? Because I pay a lot of money to have someone do that for me. So if he can live next door to me, I would love that.
Exactly. Right, I'm going to offer, that this guy can come to my neighborhood. I'll even put him up, if he wants to do my trees. Because, yeah, they charge an arm and a leg. I had a company come out a couple weeks ago to give me an estimate on trimming some of my trees and branches. And it was just like 4 trees. And you know how much it was? $3,000. They want to charge me $3,000 just to trim some trees, some branches.
I thought my 1800 was bad.
No, it's freaking ridiculous, man. And I had a couple that I wanted to, just cut down and take away. That was going to be, I didn't even want to get into that. It'd probably be another $5,000 each.
Yep.
But it goes on to say, in a home surveillance footage, the branch bandit can be seen doing the deed, normally at around 3 a.m. with an unleashed dog, before stepping back to admire his work. It says, I was talking to my wife, Emily, and I was like, hey, we had a storm last night, this guy said, referring to down limbs in front of his home. So I guess he's not carrying the branches off. I guess maybe that's what they're pissed about. And she was like, oh no, that's Edward Scissorhands. And so I was like, what? His wife, Emily, said the limb lifter had earned the nickname, a nod to the 90 movie Johnny Depp. I think we've all heard of the Edward Scissorhands movie. People in the neighborhood were talking about it, and seems like he was just hitting certain streets. Police are now using the footage to investigate who the unwanted tree trimmer may be, the station reported. He starts trimming the tree and admiring his work and kind of stepping back, said Danny, adding he wants the guy to cut it out. We really just want him to stop doing this. So, there you go. And the guy who's cutting the trees is not my jackwagon. It's these idiots that are complaining that someone is beautifying their neighborhood for them, which obviously they're too lazy to do themselves. So,
I do love the fact that was pointed out very clearly with a unleashed dog.
Yes, that's probably more, they're more pissed about that than anything. Yeah,
here that person is on that HOA for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. And I've got here's a little picture. Here's that surveillance footage. Here's the dude. Looks like he's got his jogging pants on and whatnot. But
this is great.
The surveillance footage that they have of him. Here's some of these bonehead neighbors. He's like, duh. So that's the America that we're dealing with. And this is in Fort Worth, Texas. There you go. So, all right. So that's my jackwagon. Did that spur any jackwagons for the two of you?
Well, as you know, Marty, I've got a really long list, but we had talked about going over the happenings in Moscow, so I can cover that real briefly.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that, because I know a lot of people are anxious to know what's going on there in Moscow with that the murders that just happened to those college students that got stabbed to death.
Well, the first thing to know about Moscow people is that if you call it Moscow, they get all uppity and say, no, not like Russia. It's different.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that if you have any Russian friends and you ask them how they pronounce Moscow, they'll call it Moscow. And so there's this funny, there's an interesting thing. Another big deal with Moscow is
it's like Prescott, Arizona. Prescott. It's Prescott.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
It's not Prescott. It's like, fuck you.
or Buena Vista, Colorado, which is the funniest thing ever. It's Buena Vista, but they're like, nope, that's not how you say it. That's a Mexican word. It's Buena Vista.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, the other thing that's, Moscow, one of the reasons I love it is that it's up until COVID and the Great Reset and all that, it was like stepping back into 1950s, 1960s America. Very Mayberry, very low crime rate. We've had a couple of odd killings in town in the last, two mass shooters with low body counts, but still shocking for just a little town in the middle of prairie, basically. We do have a university and another major state university over on the other side of the border in Washington. And when longtime locals introduce themselves, they'll often say like, hi, I'm Bob. I'm a Vandal, which is University of Idaho, or I'm Jane. I'm a Cougar. And people say that unironically with a straight face. Yeah. And so it's just the universities are a really central part of the identity of the town. And Sunday morning, some kids woke up in an off-campus housing, like an apartment house, and discovered that 4 of their housemates had been stabbed to death overnight. And there was blood, actually. There's a crazy photo up on the interwebs of blood leaking out and dripping down the foundation of the house. So everybody's being extremely tight-lipped. I've got a few friends who are cops and other friends in local government, and none of them are saying anything. And so I don't have any inside scoop, but we've been following it enough to where we've kind of got a decent idea now. Basically, there was a keypad on the door, so anybody with the combination could get in. Mm-hmm. And 2 of the girls had like 10 conversations within 30 minutes with an ex-boyfriend of one of the victims. And so nothing's definitive yet, but that's the first piece of data that has things starting to click into place. And the police have been very clear that they were targeted. They haven't said that they know why or how that they know that. And there were some early missteps with the local police because there are no murders don't happen here. Violent crime.
They don't have the experience. right?
Yeah, and these are good people. And the police chief apologized publicly for two things midway through last week. One was saying that there was not a threat to the community, and the other was in being late to give a press conference at all. I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday after the Sunday when it happened, when they first had a press conference. And he was getting a lot of heat for that. And it was the first time in 25 years that I can remember a public government official apologizing for anything. And it was so refreshing to be like, what a stand-up dude.
Yeah.
You know, he just took it right on the chin and said, I should have done better. We will do better. What more can you ask? And I celebrate that and want to make a big deal about it, because that's what's missing from almost every other politician in America right now, is some sense of ownership and responsibility for the calamity they've brought down. So that was one thing. And the other thing I'll say is that both our sheriff and police chief, I am not a fan of gun laws or, you know, a lot of laws in general. So I'm not a big, you know, thin blue line guy. However, both our sheriff and police chief have forbade their officers and deputies from investigating the legality of any firearm or suppressor they come across. So if you get pulled over in Moscow with a full auto shorty with a friggin' oil filter screwed to the front end, they can't touch it. They can't even write anything down about it. So these are people that our law enforcement typically really is pro 2A and is awesome. And so for anybody that's in the Moscow area that happens to be listening, telling your local government people that we really like the chief and we don't want him gone, I think is probably a good idea.
Very good. Here's just an update that I found here. Moscow police provided an update on the investigation of the quadruple murder at the University of Idaho. Investigators have been looking into reports that Kaylee Goncalves, one of the 4 students killed, had a stalker. So there's something there. It says the police have pursued hundreds of pieces of information but have not been able to identify a stalker or verify that Kaylee had one. And if you've got information that can help detectives, you're asked to contact the tip line 208-883-7180. Or you can email tipline at ci.moscow.id.us. So hopefully by the time you guys hear this, they will have apprehended the perpetrator or perpetrators. I mean, I would think there had to be more than one to take out that many college kids, you know?
Yeah, before we heard about the ex-boyfriend, I was having fantasies of, you know, like a drug mule that pinched some product or something, because there is a drug corridor that runs straight through our town from like Vegas. You can get from Vegas to Coeur d'Alene just on one road. And it's sort of a back road for drug trafficking. And there's Russian mob up in Spokane now. And and there's also some MS-13 up there. So that was what we were kind of talking about around the water cooler before the ex-boyfriend thing. And all of a sudden that starts sounding really simple. So we'll see. It's really shocked the town very badly, because this is the kind of place where people don't lock their doors. People leave their car keys in the ignition. It's that kind of town. And so it's really stressing people out, because they're just not used to kind of how Neil was talking about Ukraine and the sort of weird the switches that flip for people, where all of a sudden their situation is the same, but it's not. And that's
well, it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be something like that. The gay club that was just shot up. Where was that at?
Colorado Springs.
Yeah, Colorado Springs, where the perpetrator again fits the complete mold of every mass murder that we've seen up to date. Is they had a prior record. There were warning signs. He had been arrested before for things, and he was let go just to go and do something like he just did. So I'm not going to be surprised if somebody's got mental problems or people. I don't think it's going to be. It's probably just going to be one person. But again, the murder weapon too, they say, is a fixed blade knife, which they haven't recovered, so they don't know for certain what it is. But it's some sort of a cutting instrument, stabby instrument.
Yeah, they're having a real hard time finding any big clues, apparently. And they were looking around. K-bar was getting thrown around as what it probably was. But nobody sold one recently in town, and there's only a couple sporting goods shops in town, so it's stumping them. They've brought the FBI in. They're using their psychological like profile team, like they do for serial killers.
Yeah.
So they're throwing everything they can at it, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird that they don't have some better leads. Yeah. Especially in today's technology with all the cameras and everything that people have on their doors and and whatnot. Do you guys have a lot of those cameras in your town?
Far too many of them. Yeah. They pipe all that stuff to the feds, and so I'm just seriously not a fan. But yeah, it is ubiquitous here.
Yeah, so I would think that would probably play a big part in their trying to solve this. But.
And they do have a bunch of video, just not anything that's conclusive yet. So we'll see.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's counter all this negativity with a little positivity. And I don't know how positive this is, but my hero, one is the guy who's trimming the trees there in Texas. He's one of my heroes. I love that guy, and his dog. Now, here's another one. This is... Again, Texas again, another Texas story. And this is, I don't have the date line here. I'll find it when I read this story. So this may be the most blunt help wanted ad of all times. It's Texas business under fire for now hiring non-stupid people sign. So this guy is my hero. Walter Parsons, owner of Pets Gone Wild Resort, bought the eye-catching sign after growing frustrated at some of the workers whom he had previously employed. We're trying to weed out the people that do come in. We hired one last week that lasted 3 days, Parsons told this news station. While the unconventional tactic seems to have worked for Parsons, some locals have taken offense to the unconventional signage. What does it say to prior employees? Oh, we think you're stupid, so we're trying to hire somebody that we think is smarter than you. A Pasadena resident named Taylor, now there's a stupid name right there, told KHOU 11. The fact that they felt so emboldened to put something up like that, it's disgusting, it's distasteful, and it's unprofessional, Taylor said. He must have been one of the people that they didn't hire. Despite the criticism, Parsons said that within 24 hours of putting up the banner, he found 3 applicants. The pet daycare owner said previous staff were unmotivated, often paying closer attention to their cell phones than the pets they were being paid to look after. Repeatedly, get off the cell phone, you got dogs to watch. Okay, put the cell phone up, go back out there. 20 minutes later, she's back on her cell phone, Parsons said. At least be as smart as I am. So that's all he's looking for. Come through here and take a tour.
It's a major problem right now. Major. And I think it's a combination of drug use and mental health issues where a lot of people just are not performing to their IQ, to their potential, let's say. Let's not even talk about IQ. Just when people are as worried as they are about different things right now, boy, is it showing. You know, it's the difference between now and pre-Great Reset is insane.
It's lack of holding this generation accountable for their actions and the coddling, the incessive coddling that's happened over the last few decades. It's catching up to us. What is that movie? Idiocracy, man. Yep. It's real.
Yep.
It is absolutely
it's a real thing
real
at this point. And I think that we should start talking about phone addictions, which we all have, as more like a drug problem than not. As far as I can tell, social media and phones in general function nearly identically to a chemical drug. And it is doing really bad things to our brains and our society.
So I have an anecdote about that specifically. And Brian, 100% agree with you, because when I got back from Alaska, both times this last year for winter and summer fishing, our phones don't work up there. You're out in the ocean, So I'm like, this is a brick. All this is like an MP3 player, and movies at night. And so I came home. I'm used to my phone not working. I lost my phone in my house. Don't care. I'm so used to not working. No big deal. For like a week, I found my phone after like 3 days because I wasn't concerned, but I eventually was like, I need to find my phone because I don't want to buy a new one. But people are like, I heard you lost your phone. Are you okay? Like, is everything fine? I'm like, yeah. Did you call me? Did you text me? No. Well, then what are you worried about me losing my phone for? Well, because then you're not in communication with people. I don't need to be. I don't need to check Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or all these, these different things. I don't need to be in constant communication with you, because guess what? Life, like, if you want to see somebody, you just go out the door and you can go find them. Like, and you can interact in person. It's great. It's like we used to do back in the day. Speaking of, how your town is, kind of stuck in the 50s and 60s. You remember back in the day, we'd ride around and find, where's everybody at? Oh, look for all the bicycles in the front yard. Uh-huh. Same kind of concept. Like, you can still look at all the cars that parked in front of somebody's house. Like, it's okay to still do that. But people could not wrap their heads around me going, I don't know where my phone is.
Yep.
Well, it was the whole COVID thing too, where people were locked up and isolated, and that was their their comfort zone right there, and that's how they kept in touch and checked on people, and made people even that much more reliant on the digital age, the phones, the computers,
and that is what the World Economic Forum wants. You will own nothing and you will be happy. You will live in the pod. You will eat the bugs. You will Netflix and chill. That is absolutely, you will use our digital currencies. That is absolutely the goal.
Yeah. We can cut you off at any time.
10, 15-second time span, the attention span people have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it is getting to be, I am trying to actively figure out how to remove my phone from my personal life, because I think we're making a terrible bargain in having this close an attachment to an electronic object.
Yeah, it's definitely a quagmire. I'm trying to figure that out.
Brian, I have a suggestion that I've been toying with too, because I want to give it up, but I don't, because I'm still just
understand.
I still got the needle in my arm. I haven't quite pulled it out yet.
Yep.
Get one of those Nokia 8810s, or what are those ones from back to the blue ones that had Snake that send text and phones, and that's it.
Yes.
If you get one of those, I guarantee all you're going to do is use it for what it's for.
So this is heartbreaking. I actually set up there's a distro of Android that has all the spyware ripped out, and I believe it's called Legacy, something like that, or Heritage. It's something like that. And a buddy of mine set me up with an old phone that ran that, and it was perfect because it did signal, text, and phone. And you could add stuff. You could make it as dumb as you wanted, but it would run signal as well. And it worked for one day. And you guys may have seen RoHS on the back of your electronics in the last 15 years or so. And it's lead-free solder plus some other stuff. And lead-free solder is dying wicked fast. And my buddy who was refurbishing these phones for a while was saying he was having to reflow most of the BGAs, which is a particular kind of solder joint that's tricky, but these phones use. And it still doesn't work. And so we're having this problem where there's not even old phones kicking around that work. We did find another one though, and if we get it running, I'll pass it around because it's a 2021 that will run Legacy. And so you can kind of do the thing you're talking about. It's just insanely more difficult than I thought it would be and than it should be. but totally agree with you on going backwards. That's a good thing.
You know, personally, I feel the same way that you guys do on a personal level, and I try my best not to use it for anything other, like you said, like an MP3 playing music and, you know, listening to podcasts and stuff. But, you know, from a business point of view, yeah, I gotta have it. I mean, there's no way around it. It has to be.
It's totally not optional on a business level. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's completely not optional. So, you know, there's that double-edged sword kind of deal.
Well, and I don't want to make myself out to be some purist because I have a wicked Twitter addiction. So, like, you know, I'm wrestling along with everybody else. It just happens to be news and current events instead of, you know, TNA.
TNA. Tinder. I want to hear more about this Ukraine Tinder, you know. That's
yeah, right.
I mean, your next trip, I may want to hop along with you on this next trip just to get the Tinder dates. But
I'm telling you, if you're not married,
I'm single, man.
Easy.
I'm ready to go.
Let's go.
I'm ready to haul it. Let's do it. But let's get back. Let's talk about unless you guys have any more Jackwagons or heroes, you know, anybody you want to recognize.
You know, I got a quick hero, and it's the unsung old people who are teaching young people skills. And we have two ladies who I won't mention by name because they're pretty private people, but my daughters have been adopted effectively by two old ladies who are teaching them tatting, which is lace making, and sewing and knitting and crocheting and macrame and all these cool fiber arts. And we got to know them through, we homeschool, and my wife and kids were walking around the neighborhood all the time. And one of the ladies has a bad hip and asked if they would mind taking her dog for a walk. And she's like, it went well. And she was like, can I trade you guys sewing lessons for dog walking? And it's blossomed into this really cool friendship. And she's coming over for Thanksgiving dinner. So if you are somebody like an Xer who grew up with a feminist mom or just for whatever reason didn't get the arts and crafts stuff and you don't know how to teach your kids, I guarantee you there are a bunch of old people rotting in their apartments looking for somebody to talk to, and they're awesome. They're such cool people. So I just want to thank all the old people out there that are saving the skills of young people, and also encourage folks to, you can take two problems and make one beautiful solution. You can have daycare and elder care where they take care of each other, and it's incredible.
I like that. That is awesome. So yes, they are definitely welcome on the Air Force One.
There it is. They deserve it.
They deserve it, no doubt.
Hey, Leadheads, Dwight Settle with Seal One. Just here to talk to you and tell you a little bit about our product. Seal One CLP Plus is a bio-based, non-toxic product. It comes in a paste, liquid, aerosol, and pre-saturated bore-specific patches called sealskins. They all do the same thing, just different methods of application. The best way to use our product is to start with a clean firearm. And there's two reasons why I say that. First, you start with the Seal One CLP Plus by field stripping your firearm and covering the entire firearm inside and out, bore, barrel, everything with the Seal One CLP Plus. You'll see how easy it spreads around. You'll want to wait about 15 to 20 minutes. Then you come back and you want to wipe it all off. So you see how easy it is to put on and remove. And the second reason we say to use a clean firearm is you'll find that it's not clean. We're going to pull out more carbon that's been left behind with whatever product you've been using before. Okay, it takes about 3 cleanings, so I like to say a clean shoot, clean shoot, clean shoot, just normal usage before the Seal One CLP Plus has removed whatever product that you were using before and has seasoned the firearm. It's kind of like breaking in a cast iron skillet. And after that first cleaning, you will notice a difference. And with each successive cleaning, you will find that it gets easier and easier to clean. Seal One CLP Plus is a dry lubricant and is designed to work as such. You will find that malfunctions are virtually eliminated when used properly because the majority of all malfunctions are caused to carbon buildup. And with the Seal One CLP Plus, the carbon does not build up. Seal One CLP Plus is safe on all metals, plastics, composites, polymers, rubber, wood, and leather. Seal One CLP Plus is a one-and-done formulation. No other products are required or needed to clean and lubricate and protect your firearm. That's why we say seal one and done. Seal One is a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Use the code LEADHEAD for a 25% off discount.
All right, let's pick back up. Let's go ahead and start with our listener questions, and that'll get us going and get into hearing more about Neil's experience over in Ukraine. And I didn't make a post this time, but I did do like a little thing before we started recording, and it looks like I got some pretty good responses here from our lead heads. John Adams III asks, any unique firearms being used? How does your experience compare to how the war is being depicted in the media?
Okay. Two-part question with vastly different and longer answers.
Yeah. Let's start with the how does your experience compare to how the war is being depicted in the media?
So I'll be honest with you. Since I've been home, I try not to watch anything in the media about Ukraine. I just talk to the guys that I've met and know out there. I don't trust the media, as majority of us don't anymore.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it firsthand from you. So you tell us, what you're seeing there. And I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit as far as the day in and day out. People are just trying to live their lives as normal as possible with, while being bombarded. Yeah.
Let's start there. Thank you. That's a great segue into this. So if you're in Kyiv, we talked about that. We touched on that briefly. It's like we said, kind of day-to-day life, but obviously some changes. The farther east you push, the more serious things get, pretty rapidly as well. It takes driving from Kyiv to Donetsk, where I was before I came home, took us about 13 hours.
Let me pull a map up while you're talking about this, and that'll help our video audience. And
this is also Ukraine works on a different schedule. There's I need you to be there at 1700, so I need to SP at 09. Well, in Ukraine, it's like I need you to be there today, or maybe tomorrow, and they're like, okay. So when you travel, things go a little slower. You make stops at these little places, and you get chai, you get coffee, you get snacks. We stopped at a place, and some random guy just heard us speaking English and saw us in uniforms and bought us a bunch of energy drinks and protein bars. Like I said before about people being thankful and happy that we're there.
Yeah.
If we're looking at this map in Kyiv, and if you go east to the Dnipro River, so a little farther, so you've Kharkiv, Belgorod. So if you're looking down in the right-hand corner, the Donetsk. Yep. So that was just outside of there is where I was for the last week of my time there.
East
and
or
we were
west of
surrounded by Russians on all three sides.
Oh, and Donetsk, you were on all north, east, and south?
It's kind of. So it was without getting you can. So a lot of things I want to talk about, but I don't want to do OPSEC problems.
Yeah.
But basically, there's a corridor from. We don't have control at the time. We didn't have control of Donetsk proper, and there's basically a channel of Ukrainian, like a finger of Ukrainian power that progresses in there down that freeway. I think it's the MD39, whatever that blue one is right there above to the top left of Donetsk. M30.
M03 or this one?
That one right there, yeah.
Okay. E50.
So in that area around that freeway is where the Ukrainian military has pushed into that area. So they kind of control along that freeway up to the northwest and the west. Control along south and then east, and then on the west-hand side of the M03 freeway. So it was always a concern of ours that middle of the night that they'd get frosty and they would push through these towns, and they would cut us off. Our nearest major town that we could get to was Dnipro. So if you go northwest of there, other direction. It's on the Dnipro River. It's about a 3-hour drive from Donetsk.
Okay.
So it should be Dnipro right there. So that was like, so when I left Ukraine, I was in the Donetsk region. I took we took a boat across a river. Then we took a car to Dnipro. And I took a train from Dnipro to Kyiv, and then a bus from Kyiv to Warsaw, and then a plane from Warsaw back to Arizona. So literally it was planes, trains, cars, boats, airplane. I mean, every form of transportation outside of a helicopter to get home from there.
So where did you fly into to start off?
Warsaw, Poland.
Okay.
So that would be northwest of Ukraine.
There's Poland.
Right there, Poland. So if you fly to Warsaw, I was there for a couple hours, met a handler we had there, and then hopped a bus from Warsaw to Kyiv.
Oh, how long was that drive?
Long.
Yeah, like a couple of days.
Yeah, it takes about a day and a half, 2 days to get there. According to my bus fare, you leave Warsaw at 11:15 p.m. and get in at 3:40 p.m. So, and you also cross some time zones, get a couple delays. So I think I arrived around 5 p.m. So that was.
And how are people's attitudes in this part of the country further from the war?
Not that great, because if you look just north of there's that big ass Belarus, and Belarus doesn't like the West. It's a dictator country that was taken over within the last 5 years. I can't remember the exact date. I met a girl in Warsaw. Her family were political refugees because she was setting up protests against the new dictator, and they were forced to flee. Which that added a whole different thing. She's like, I'm from Belarus. And I was like, oh, I'm a refugee. I was like, I thought you were Ukrainian. She's like, no. And then that led down that road. And I was like, holy shit, the geopolitical things in this area is insane.
Right.
But there's a bunch of Russian soldiers deployed currently in Belarus on that border, which if you look at that little finger that points down, it's really, really close to Kyiv.
This one?
So Yep. So it's the big concern is you have to push through, they can push through there down in Kyiv. Now, the big thing that nobody thinks about is the Chernobyl exclusion zone is right in between Kyiv and there. Because that was one of the things that I wanted to go see while I was there. I was like, can we go? So I wanted to see the Ferris wheel that we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently in Ukraine, they're like, why do you go there? That has nothing to do with Chernobyl.
It's in all the video games. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I got to go see this. And they're like, no, you go see the town, you go see the radar station, this. And I was like, no, I get that. But my inner Call of Duty nerd needs to go see this.
Right, exactly.
So unfortunately, I was unable to do that. That was closed. That whole area is closed to the military now.
Yeah.
But down here in the south of Belarus, close to Kyiv, allegedly there are a bunch of Belarusian soldiers stationed there as well as Russian. In reality, they say there's 20,000 Russians there. The Belarusian military is only 60,000 strong.
Yeah, they're not going to have a third of their army there.
There's not a huge threat, but it's a concern, and people don't think about stuff rationally, and they just think about war, and they hear numbers of soldiers in these places, and so they get concerned, which is understandable.
Propaganda.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the propaganda is strong. It's very strong on both sides. I'd say stronger on the Russian and the Belarus side than the Ukrainian side, but they're definitely using.
Is Belarus? Are they part of Russia? I mean, it's a whole other country, right? But they're on
a whole different country. They're a dictatorship, one of the last remaining dictatorships in Europe. I only know this because of the last 30 days I had to learn this.
Is their army part of this as well? Are they supplying soldiers and whatnot? Or are they just providing passage?
They're providing passage to Russian military. But then you've got to think about it's not just them. You've got I'm not sure if you've heard about the Russians are now recruiting Afghan special forces guys out of Afghan to fight in Ukraine. because they're being searched by the Taliban, and so they don't want to get caught and have their families killed. So they're providing them amnesty. You got guys coming from Libya. You got guys coming from all over the Middle East now. I haven't heard of confirmed large numbers, but I've definitely seen pictures and reports of at least a couple hundred. So,
kind of mercenary type.
Yeah, it's like basically they're trying to turn them into like an Arabic Wagner group, but folded into the Russian military.
All right, so the trip from Warsaw to Kyiv, you make that trip pretty uneventful. Anything going on happening during that?
No, just a lot of realization of what I was getting myself into. Like I said before, I was the only military-age male on that bus, which I didn't realize until we got to passport control. And I got off the bus because I was one of the last guys on. And I looked around and I was like, oh, this is like a bus of like 50 people, and I'm one male. I think there was 2 gentlemen, probably in their 80s. And then all the rest, women between the age of 21 and 45. And it was just very strange to, and also be the tallest one by a full head. None of these women came up past my shoulder.
Sure.
So I was not, if I wanted to blend it in, I would have died.
So obviously it's pretty unique. It's pretty unique to have a Westerner travel this route, I guess, because like you said, you stopped.
It's one of there's only 2 routes to get into the country. You've got to either fly into Warsaw and take a bus, or you can take the train. You can also take the train from Romania and Moldova, but those are Warsaw is like the 90 to 95% of the Westerners will come to the country that way.
Yeah. And you were the only one on this trip, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
But you were meeting some people there that were already in country, or did some people come after you?
No, I met my team there. There was 3 individuals already in Kyiv with you. And there was supposed to be another one that was supposed to follow 2 weeks later, but he ended up in Africa doing some EOD work, and he should be traveling there within the next 90 days or so.
Yeah. And I guess for our listeners who aren't familiar with you, didn't listen to the previous episodes that you're on, just kind of give your background and qualification for why you're doing something like this.
Yeah, so I spent 6 years in the U.S. Army from 2003 to 2009. I was a artilleryman, 13 Bravo, field artillery. Went to some other schools, did some other jobs, and then when I got out of the military, became a firearms instructor. And then got back into contract work, military work. Ended up in Iraq in 2016 fighting ISIS with the Kurdish Peshmerga. A lot of people might be familiar with Charles Keating, Navy SEAL that was killed back in 2016. He died when our team was overrun. So I rock a lot of his gear. They have the C4 Foundation, which I would shamelessly plug at every opportunity that I ever get.
Plug it.
So C4 Foundation, those of you that don't know, is the Charles Keating IV. We call him Chuck Heavy. He's here from Phoenix, Arizona, where I live now. A lot of guys that I shoot with currently. I also shoot competitively. They grew up with him in high school. The foundation has gone from a remembrance thing to helping the SEAL families and SEALs when they come home from their extremely high tempo deployments to reintegrate with society and reintegrate with their families. So it's located outside of San Diego, California, and it allows SEALs when they come home from these, either be it 6-week or 6-month deployments, to spend time with their families, their fathers, sons, wives, and daughters, and get right and get back in the right headspace, and so that way they can get back to training and not have to worry about the mission here at home. So it's a pretty big thing that I believe in. It's also a 501c3 nonprofit company. So if you have any leftover money as a company and you want to find a good place to do a donation, you can write off and not pay taxes on that. This is a great place to send it. So
very good. And it's c4foundation.org. is where you lead heads can go if you're interested in donating or helping that organization out, which you should. I've got it pulled up for our viewing audience here, and they got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that. You guys can link in from their website. So, very cool, very cool. So talk a little bit more about the, I guess, what you witnessed while you were there, as far as the civilians and I guess the conditions that you're seeing there. Because like you said, you haven't been watching the news, but our listeners will be able to compare what they're hearing versus what you actually witnessed and saw there. And of course, the military, we want to, kind of hear about. I guess there's only so much you can talk about as far as the training and what you were getting into. But as far as demeanor of the military men and women there.
So that's very unit specific. I can't go into who specifically we worked with until after the war is over, just based off of OPSEC. And that's going to be, unfortunately, a lot of the conversations I have with people, that's kind of where that direction goes.
Completely get it.
But the guys, but the morale and their attitudes and things I can definitely discuss. So some of the top tier units that we've worked with have been phenomenally motivated. They've been well equipped. On par with one unit I worked with would be on par with like the FBI HRT, and they are dialed in. They have the weapons they need, the ammo they need, night vision, thermals, drones.
They got all the cool toys.
Accessibility to MLRSs, to HIMARS, the new hot topic that we've got out there. All the way down to some more frontline units that are extremely well motivated. They're not super well trained, and I did run into one of them, one company after they came off the front in Donetsk, and that was an absolute meat grinder. And I've never seen so many dudes absolutely like World War I level shell shocked of like, holy fuck, what just happened. And to put that in perspective, the unit that I met up with, I was there for a week outside Donetsk. The day I got there, so we initially had a training program set into place 48 hours before that I was going to come out and teach their sniper teams how to engage targets between 0 and 1,000 meters. And I got there on a Monday, and the previous Sunday they lost 150 guys.
Oh, shit.
50 of those were killed, 100 were wounded. The day I got there, that number dropped significantly down to, I think it was 5 or 6 killed, and then times 2 wounded, and that kind of continued on, and so it was really hard to work with people in an active war zone that were actively fighting, but then also trying to keep the morale and kind of just discuss concepts with them. So this group that we'd run into, we did some leadership recon, and we were checking out some ranges that we could use, and came back, and these guys just come off the front, and they were about as demoralized as you could get, while still being walking functional people. Mm-hmm. They're smoking, they're joking like soldiers do, they're doing the typical stuff, but you can tell that these dudes, they all got the 1,000 yard stare, they've all got the hard of hearing, they're all just pale, they're worn out, they're tired,
exhaustion. Yeah,
they've been through an assault, they've been through a counter battery of Russian fire, they lost an untold amount of guys that were with them, and I will say that they all, for the most part, they all wanted to come up and say hi to the Americans and shake our hands, which was weird. Because I haven't been specifically in the mindset that they were in, but I've definitely been through some severe gunfights and indirect fire that have put me in a different mindset. And these dudes were out of sorts, but they were held together, right? And that's when it comes down to shit like that. Like, that's what you need, Eastern Ukraine is a meat grinder. It's an artillery war, and as a former artilleryman, I've used to love pulling string on 155 rounds. I thought it was the fucking biggest, coolest thing in the world you could do. I'm shooting 150-pound rocket-assisted, laser-guided fucking shells at people, right? Like, this is the coolest things in the world until you're on the other fucking side of it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I was only outside of Donetsk for a week, and I have come to realize that artillery is the living personification of hell on earth. And I wasn't in the trenches. I was a little bit behind the lines with the officers, and I still like it.
Well, they say that's the most effective part of the, the shelling is the psychological effect that it has, and that's why they do it.
Yeah, if you crush somebody with artillery, and then you roll them with drones, and they drop these hand grenades or 40 millimeter VOG grenades. That's a really, really, really effective way to suppress, depress, and then kill your enemy. Like it is, and both sides are using it. Don't get me wrong. Like it's,
yeah.
It just, the time that I spent there, like definitely like watching these guys and then living through it on a fractional scale of what they've dealt with, like a hard pass every time.
For those that are unfamiliar with this shell-shocked phenomenon, it's hard to understand the severity of the neurological damage that these guys are getting hit with. And there are videos that you can find on YouTube that you do not want your kids seeing, or probably your loved ones, of World War I vets, years later. And Jocko has done some segments on his podcast describing it at length. And it is truly horrific. Like guys that they lose a lot of muscles that were voluntary become involuntary. So like their jaws stop working and stuff. And it's worth watching because our tax dollars pay for this stuff. And it's important for us to know what's going on in our name.
Good point.
But on that same note, things like HIMARS, I mean, they can't see me in the video, but I got hands raised to Jesus. Like that shit is phenomenal.
So explain the HIMAR to our listeners.
So I'm not a huge HIMARS aficionado. I just watched it work and thought it was the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. The U.S. Marine Corps uses it. I think we've got about 200, maybe 300 of these vehicles. So in the field artillery world, normally, depending on guided missiles, unguided stuff, things like that you can fire. You got MLRSs and you got 155 howitzers. I was on an M109er Alpha 6 Paladin when I was in the Army, and this was I would have my 20-year retirement next month. So just let's age ourselves real quick here. Our effective, combat effective range was like, I think it was between 20 and 50 meters of our target. HIMARS will put it through a fucking window.
Oh, wow.
And that is insane. Like, they have the programs that I saw that how they do this. I'm not allowed to talk about it, I don't think, so I'm going to just stop that. But let's just say that there's a really, really cool way that they can take these trucks and shoot these missiles a long way and put it literally through. Here's a house. Here's the west side. There's 4 windows on the west side of this house. We're firing from the westerly direction. Which window would you like me to put this rocket through?
Is that accurate?
That is awesome.
It is so cool. And there are allegedly 10 of these units, these trucks, not even units, there's 10 of these trucks in Ukraine, and they've 100% allocated this vehicle and this weapon system to changing the entire war and how things have been fought.
And do the Russians have these?
In this country, we have over 200 in the U.S. inventory. Just perspective.
The Russians don't have anything like this.
They have something like it, but it doesn't do what it does. I mean, basically, it's a grad, but it's an extremely highly and accurate grad that you can shoot one thing through a window, whereas a grad goes, let's just eliminate that entire grid square of 1,000-meter area.
Right.
They're pretty cool.
So, Neil, one in my prior life, I designed electronics and worked in some funny areas due to understanding physics, which is my actual training. And somebody came to us in 2018 who was representing the Saudis, and they were having a major problem with the Iranian drones that they had given the Houthis in Yemen. And it's called the Ababil. And it's like fiberglass. It has nothing for a radar signature, and it has like Hobby King drone components, Chinese stuff that works very, very well, like insanely well. And they cost about $5 to make. As I say, they have almost no radar signature, and they had flown one in the front door of one of the airports in Saudi. And they had also taken out a bunch of oil refineries. And you won't hear about it at all because the Saudis don't want it talked about because obvious reasons. And I had seen that Iranian drones were showing up on the Russian side in Ukraine. And I'm wondering if you tangled with any of those or saw the damage of them. And I know they're not a super high yield explosive, but it sounded like bang for the buck style. They were really, really, really good. And I'm wondering if you had any experience with them, if you could speak to the foreign, I think there's a few different foreign weapon systems that have been brought in. Like, I think maybe the Turks were bringing some stuff in, but specifically, if you saw the Ababils, I'd be curious to know what your opinion was.
Yes. So by experience, I mean, heard air raid sirens, jumped into trenches or bunkers, waited for air raid sirens to go away. And one time I saw a drone fly over our house, one of the suicide drones, the Iranian ones. I think it was I don't know if the 130 or 160 is the nomenclature they're using.
Let me give a look real quick here. Keep talking, sorry.
So our house was how do I describe this? Yeah, so it was on the approach path for not the cruise missiles, but for the Iranian drones that they would drop. I saw some houses in Kyiv that have been hit by them, some apartment buildings. It'd be pretty substantial damage. I think there were 1,000-kilogram warheads on those things. Wow. So I mean, it's not huge. The whole building's not blown up, but the whole thing, the facade's jacked up and people have lost their lives. So I mean, they're effective, but they're not super effective. They'll fire X amount at a target. 80% of those get shot down by air defenses, but then even the ones that make it through, I think they're landing within like 100 or 200 meters of their targets. They're not like, if you want to hit a dam, and you're let's say the dam is this, and you're aiming at this axis, then you've got a pretty good left to right spread, but your front and back is going to be jacked up. Whereas with the buildings, they're target here, and they can just hit the entire facade because they're the old Soviet blocks, so they're tall and long. Mm-hmm. And they've very rarely not gone off. So they're cheap, they're effective, they're not super accurate. But the thing is that the targets the Russians are going after right now are not military targets. They tried that at the beginning of the war, they failed. Now their idea is we can terrorize the civilian population. So right now it's water and power. So right after I left, actually, they started doing. Initially, while I was there, it was between 2 to 4 hour blackouts. They were running blackouts through Kyiv. Now they're 8 to 12.
Oh wow!
Living. So the Ukrainian power system is down to 30%. I think 38% is what I read in the news. So now it's to the point of, can I keep my people warm, and can I keep the lights on?
Mm-hmm. So I saw they were targeting, this is not when they were shelling Chernobyl, but there's some other nuke plant in Ukraine that was under shelling fire, reported by MSM. I'm wondering if you can speak to what generally speaking, how power is made in Ukraine. And I know that I'm asking like a foreign policy question, so if you don't know, no sweat. But like, it strikes me as really friggin' sketchy to be shelling anywhere near a nuke plant. And the Russians seem to be, either the Russians are very comfortable with it, or the Western media is trumping it up as much as they can.
So I remember the nuke plant that you're talking about. And Lefty, if you want to hop on Google Maps, and I'm sure you just, if you can Google like Ukraine power plant under shelling or something like that. If I remember correctly, that plant was relatively close to Donetsk, because there was conversations about that. And if I also remember correctly, within the last 2 weeks, that has been taken back over by the Ukrainian military, I believe. I think. But from my understanding, the Ukrainian power grid is powered by nuclear and hydroelectric. Those are the two big, because you got the Dnipro River, you've got the not Volgograd. Where's it, Volgograd? Now I'm pulling my map up. Which also, by the way, weird fun fact. When I looked this up, Ukraine talks about left and right sides of rivers by the direction of flow, not by the north-south compass that we know of as on the western side. There you go. Where it says Inner Hodor.
Yep, and then go north now.
Oh, right here.
Yep,
Okay,
right there.
I got you.
Right about there. Right about where your mouse is right now. That's where that nuclear power plant that's been shelled has been at. At least according to my Google Maps, which could be completely wrong. I never went to that area. But going back to Brian, your question about power supply, it's all hydroelectric and nuclear as far as I've seen, and then they also import liquid natural gas, initially from Russia and now from Poland and Germany, if I remember correctly.
LOL. Yeah.
So the listener questions mainly are about the firearms and whatnot that you encountered there. Brian, do you have some more questions about the?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Before we touch back with Brian, the initial question you asked me that speaked off this whole 15-second tangent, were there any unique firearms that I worked with? The answer is yes. There was a super cool bullpup AK-74 that I sent you a picture of.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
That I found. I was like, oh my God, I know who the fuck needs to see this.
I was pleased to get that. Yeah.
As well as the ones, I know that there's a bunch of other craft made, 12.5, 12.7 anti-material rifles out there, but the cool ones that I saw were it's called a UR-10. It is a Ukrainian made AR-10, almost like M110 style rifle without the reflexive suppressor. It has more of a direct attach. It's got the ones we worked with had Luth AR stocks. They were running Leopold Mark IV 10Xs. Yep, just like those guys. Yeah.
This one.
Yep, they're pretty cool. Craft made rifles. I mean, it's an AR-10 that we're all used to.
Yeah.
They had the. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, it looks like an AR-10. Yeah.
And those are capable of sub MOA accuracy with Hornady and G&G and S&B, your typical match ammunition. Mm-hmm. And then we had a super cool B&T. I'm trying to remember the exact model of it.
Give me the model that bullpup again. I'll pull it up.
The bullpup was somebody actually told me the company that made that chassis. Let's see, it's
this is gonna blow Brian's brain.
And it was super well balanced. It
wasn't a Valmet, was it? The chassis?
No, it was an AK-74 in a locally made Ukrainian chassis.
Nice.
because I sent it to a guy and he was like, he does all the, local war zone kind of firearms. And I was like, hey, man, check this out. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I've seen those before. And I was like, wait, what? These are normal? He's like, yeah, those are Ukrainian. I was like, oh, shit, that's cool.
I can't find the picture that you sent me, but
you want me to send it to you again?
Can you put it in this chat? That way I can pull it up.
Not from my phone because I'm on my computer.
Oh, you're on your computer? Okay. Yeah, email it to me and then I'll pull it up.
Or you want me to shoot it to you on Instagram?
Yeah, do it on Instagram. I can do that on here too. Let me quit sharing because there's no telling what's on my Instagram messages here.
Right, I was like,
got a couple there.
I sent those 3 there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me pull this up. This is
I'm
is
seeing
awesome.
the Malyuk is the name of their indigenous bullpup rifle.
So I looked for one of those because I've heard about those, and those are the ones that initially, apparently allegedly issued only their SF guys, and I did not see one of those.
Okay.
So this chassis system here is a local Ukrainian designed one.
Check it out, Brian.
Let's see here.
It's like steampunk.
Oh, wow.
Steampunk.
Oh yeah.
How heavy was that?
Not terrible. Like it was lighter than the bullpup I built in 7.62, for sure.
Wow, that's very cool.
Because it looks all metal. Everything looks metal.
Oh, and it was. The whole thing's metal. I think there was like 2 pieces of polymer on it, maybe. Like the grip, that forward grip, and then the cheek rest, I think, was all that was polymer.
That even looks metal, but that was polymer, the grip?
Yeah, the grip was. And weirdly enough, the trigger pull on that was not trash.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry. These are not supposed to feel this nice, and I don't know what to do with myself right now.
Yeah, right.
It was just very uncomfortable being like, I don't know what you guys did, but.
And it's a 74 model then. Nice.
Yep.
I love what they did with the trigger guard. They said, fuck it, we'll leave it in there. It's fine. No, the rear trigger guard is still installed and it's just shrouded.
Yep.
Oh, right here?
Right there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I am impressed. I am really impressed because I'm doing a homebrew one right now for our friend Nils. And it's taken over a year because I'm mortified by.
Don't
let him see this one. Don't show Nils this one.
Don't let him see it. Yeah, definitely.
So this is it's a Ukrainian produced BS-3 chassis manufactured by Black Storm.
Huh.
Is the full thing. Also, Brian, have you heard of a company called Crook out of Ukraine?
No, I haven't.
So they're a local AK manufacturer. They're like the Zenico, but for Ukraine.
Oh, excellent.
What are they called?
Called Crook, CROOK. But they're actually, because of course Cyrillic is a thing. They're actually spelt.
It's a Ukrainian.
It comes up on a Google search. There's a firearm blog review of it, of their handguard anyway. Oh, and an American would say that their name is KPYK.
Yeah, but in Ukrainian it's Crook.
Yeah. One thing that made it way easier for me to look at Cyrillic is to understand that it's just the Greek alphabet. Like the Greek rho is a P, but it's pronounced rho. And that's the P that's in Crook is pronounced, it's just the old Greek. And so Cyrillic, like you'll see pi in there. Like if you overlay a Cyrillic and a Greek alphabet, you're like, oh, I understand all this. And then Hebrew actually has a bunch of tie-ins as well, ancient Hebrew. And it's really interesting to watch how these alphabets spread. Like we use, we use Arabic numbers, but not Arabic letters. And you can sort of watch the movement of civilization through the alphabets. It's super neat.
It's KPYK. Is that the one?
Yep, yeah, that's the one. So I bring that up because they're becoming the new Zenico for Ukraine and for the Western world apparently, and they're not doing any exports outside of Ukraine because currently they're focused on arming local Ukrainian forces because they do stocks and forends and the same kind of stuff for.
Check out the chassis they've got for the Mosin Nagant.
Don't say it, Marty. Don't say it.
I love it.
Don't.
What?
So I guess they started doing that, but they were doing stuff for the 74s and 47s now that are pretty cool. So talking about specialized weapons. So a lot of guys I saw had their equipment on them, and then the B&T APR 338. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that bolt action.
No.
It's a 338 Lapua Magnum, 27-inch, heavy hitting, phenomenal rifle.
It's called BNPR.
Say again.
BNPR. What's it called?
It's a B&T APR 338.
See if that.
Yeah, that has all the things: the cantilevered bipod and folding stock, and
that's not
a lot of really neat stuff. So you were impressed with the accuracy.
They had those with suppressors and Night Force optics, and they were heavy as shit. But man, those things and those guys can shoot with those things.
Is this it?
Yep, that thing. Yep.
Oh wow, yeah, nice.
And 338 Lapua.
APR 308.
They're pretty solid.
APR 338. Long range precision.
So if you could
Switzerland.
have Neil one anti-materiel gun that was civilian purchasable, what would you get?
Who's buying it?
Money be damned, laws be damned.
Okay, let's do one for ballers on a budget. Let's say under $6,000, and then another one under $12,000.
Okay. If I had to purchase one, so I'll do that on the ballers on my budget. I would do. Is it the Barrett MRAD that has the swappability between the 308 and 338?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Here we go.
Because
that was part of
one of our units.
Good. Sorry.
Had one of these units had one of these, and they were swappable between.
You could change the barrel out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The MRAD 22. It swaps between 338 Norma Mag and 76251 NATO.
Right.
One of the units I worked with had these, and they were freaking awesome. Guns are super accurate. Ammunition obviously would be expensive on the civilian side, but jumping between those two calibers, I think it's a phenomenal ability. If there was no limit, they're running these new 12.7. So they also have the Barrett M82 and M107s, but they also have this craft produced. It's almost a 20 mic. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah. Please continue.
yeah. And you're like, ooh, we can do what now? I think it's a 20 millimeter, but I'm not sure the metric conversion. 12. I want to say it's 12.7, but 12.7 is not 20
That's
mil.
50 cal.
And it's got these. It's bigger than 50, and it's got these struts on the top and bottom. And I never got the name of it. I saw it once briefly, and I didn't want to pick it up because it looked like it weighed 60 pounds.
Well, that's probably the right weight. Like recoil management on those becomes a very, very, very real thing. Yeah. I've lusted after a Solothurn for nostalgic reasons for a really long time, and said the modern equivalent of that. That'd be tasty.
Yeah. What's it called?
Super spicy.
What's it called? I'll look it up here. What's it called?
Oh, a Solothurn, SOLOTHURN, and just
Solothurn or one of those Finnish Lotties.
Yeah, they're kind of the same thing. in some sense.
Yeah.
You purists out, yeah, you're going to need to put in anti-tank gun, Marty, because it's also a city. Yep, that first hit. Yep, right there. Yeah.
Holy
yeah,
cow.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a good picture of what
That's a
solid
shouldered
It's
howitzer.
my buddy Ian from Forgotten Weapons.
Yeah, totally. Of course, it would be Ian behind the gun. Of course.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do another interview with him in a couple weeks.
Well, I'd love for you to ask him how he likes that sucker. The Lottie also, I think it's LAHTI is another one to search.
Lottie?
Yep.
That Neil was mentioning. Yep.
So they shoot the same bullet size, but I think the case dimensions are slightly different. It's like a 300 Whisper versus 300 Blackout, but on a very larger scale.
Top fed.
And I don't know how much they are now. Those things used to be like $12,000, and that's it.
Yeah, and you used to be able to. I've seen NRA advertisements for there's a book that everybody should read called Unintended Consequences. And it's really, really important to read. I'm not going to say anything more about it than that. But other than to say that both of these guns make appearances in that novel, and there are surplus weapon advertisements pasted in along with the text for one of these for $250 in the US in the 50s or 60s. Yeah. Wow. Which $250 back in the day was real money. That said, if I could time travel to any place in time in some sense, it would be good to go back to the 50s to get a few of these.
No doubt. Yeah, those things are wicked. Look, they've even got them on.
So Neil was talking about 20 Mike, and these are the kind of the old school 20 Mike guns.
Yeah, look at the sled they've got on that one.
Yeah.
And in all honestly, the new ones they're using, it looks like a cross between one of these and do you remember the Walther 2000s?
No, but we can look that up.
I think there's a 300 Win Mag semi-auto sniper rifle. It was. They were not a commercial success. They hit cultural knowledge through the Hitman video game series.
Is this the one you're talking about?
So, yeah, it looks a lot like that, but in 20 millimeter. So it's like the size of the other gun, but looks similar to that one.
Neat.
The guns on they're super cool.
Yeah, I believe that the feds don't let civilians own these anymore. You need a destructive device license or something to own one. But
no, these ones are still good because I think these are 300 Win Mag.
Oh yeah, they're
not just
the Walther 2000. Yeah. I mean the 20 Mike stuff. It's not.
Yeah, they're all destructive devices.
Just go and get one. Yeah.
So let's do this. Real quick, because a lot of the listeners just. The different weapons that you encountered while you were there, rifles, the small arms stuff, I think is what they're mostly interested in. Talk about some of those that you encountered. Yeah,
so we one of the units I worked with, one of the special forces units I worked with was a National Guard unit. So these are the guys that have all these super high speed, super cool weapons, but they also have Maxim machine guns. So. That's strange.
I do have a question from a friend of the show, FPS Murdoch. Said he had seen pics of the STG-44 in action. And I'll just read it here. Ask him what's the weirdest shit he's seen over there. Apparently it's a fucking mixture. Makes you wonder where that 90 billion went. So we can hold the 90 billion at the end unless you feel like talking about that.
I was going to make a comment on that because I did some research prior to, you're talking about where all the money went. And Zelensky, before he took office, I think his net worth was like 1.5 million. If you look at what his worth is now, and I think I was reading it in Forbes or something. Exponentially. They're saying he's not a billionaire. He doesn't show up on their billionaire list, but he's like something like 30 million. And then they go and they start showing all these houses and everything that he owns and all these other assets, which are way more than $30 million.
Yeah, the FTX thing apparently ties in. This Bitcoin knockoff company that had an investment wing as well. Apparently, a lot of money went through FTX and back to the DNC. So I have a hard time believing that Zelensky will retain that wealth through a couple decades. I think it's going to get weird for him.
So there was a question said, did Neil bring back any FTX cryptocurrency?
No, I brought back my currency in AK-12 mags and some Tula plums that we pulled off some guys that didn't need them anymore.
Oh, sweet. You got to bring those back?
Righteous. Yeah.
Brian, you should look for something in the mail within the next 60 days.
Oh, bless you, sir. Bless you.
I'll give you my address too. I like those.
You got to sling Neil some sites like I did earlier.
Oh, I'll sling Neil some stuff. Don't worry, I'll sling him some love.
Calumet, Calumet High School mags. Those'll trade for AK-12 mags real easy. But did you see what was the weirdest gun you saw? And I think you've probably already mentioned it with the maybe most steampunk weirdest, like not the bullpup, because the bullpup's in a land of its own.
Yeah, I mean, the weirdest gun I saw and the weirdest gun in context are two entirely different conversations, right? So
Sure.
The weirdest gun I saw was the bullpup 74 because I thought that was very normal because I like doing shit that makes the internet mad. Apparently, people in war zones like doing that because it's better. But honestly, the strangest thing I saw in context was a Maxim, like OD green Maxim Soviet 7.62x54R water cooled with the sled machine gun.
Oh, yeah.
Not issued to normal troops. This was the Special Forces Battalion's medium machine gun. Not a PKM, not a PKT, not a GPM,
Were
not an
there
RPD.
multiples or was there just one?
There was 4 of them.
Ah.
Well, I
They
gotta
were
wonder.
brand fucking new. Brand new.
Amazing. I gotta wonder with the water cooling on the barrel. Like, we've been tossing that around because we've got an RPK here, and we've been talking about making basically like a canoe that sits in there to cool the barrel. And man, for high volumes of fire, like nothing sinks heat like water. Like, water is a magical compound that we totally take for granted in a way that I'm very offended by. But there's this crazy, we all know that it takes a while to heat up water, but not that many people know about what's called the latent heat of fusion of water, which is there's 2. There's the line, you can have 32 degree water and then 32 degree ice. That energy that's required to turn water from liquid to solid is enormous compared with its heat capacity. The other one that's enormous is going from liquid to steam. And so when you can fill a machine gun, make a condom for a machine gun barrel and fill it full of water, that is like the best heat sinking you can get on the planet. It's really a beautiful synergy between different physical properties. And so these guys might be crazy like a fox using these old Maxims. I don't know. Never run one.
This is why we like having you on the show, Brian. I love that. This is
well,
awesome.
I'm here for the rant.
So
here's the science section.
Yeah. Corey Goff asked, I would like to know if he witnessed more AK-74 or AK-47 caliber while there. Were there many Western pattern rifles like the M4, MCX, etc.? Optics and lights on AK pattern rifles he saw used while training. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to the episode while I work my vampire shift tonight. Corey Goff. Thanks, Corey.
Well, thank you for working the night shift, brother, because that shit sucks. And so, hands down, more 74s and 47s, like by astronomical numbers, like 98 to 2%. a surprisingly large number of AK-74Us or SUs or whatever you call, like whatever the official term for a crink is. There's a shit ton of those. A lot of those were in.
Yeah, sorry, AKSU is what you were searching for there.
So they were a bunch of those. A lot of those were in the border guards and police hands. Majority of those, well, not a majority. A lot of them were standard issued. A lot of the ones on the front lines are suppressed. Going back to the standard 74s, depending on the unit, some units had a phenomenal ripoff of the Mepro Light. I don't remember the number. The one they used for the Tavors.
Okay.
Those kind of square EOTech looking things.
Yeah.
Ukraine has created a local version of that. Pick rails, suppressors are not. I mean, I'd say guys are 40% suppressed for the common dude.
Righteous.
Which you know what cans they're using?
Locally produced for the most part, because cans in Ukraine are like cans anywhere else in Europe that they don't require anything. It's if you don't have a can, you're an asshole. Is how they view the shooting community, which how it should here, as we all know.
Yeah.
Because hearing protection is not just earmuffs. It just so happens though that they made these cans full auto rated before the war. So
righteous.
There were a couple suppressors.
Sorry to cut you off, Neil. Were these like the washer, the stacked washer and bushing style, or spot welded washing and washer and sort of sheet metal the way the Russian stuff is, or was it more like American style cans with the baffles and, you know, sort of swoopy funnel, inverted funnel shapes?
No idea.
Fair.
I know they worked well enough to be impressed, because at first, like, they had spray paint jobs on them, and I was just like, that ain't gonna suppress shit. Like, that looks like a Form 1 garage trash can. Come to find out, they were pretty nice. So I don't know what their baffle technology is. I don't know what they're doing. The only thing I can tell you about is they are pretty large in diameter. They're not large enough to cover the front sight or even the bottom of the front sight that you would see through an AK. They are, for the most part, they have a little serration on the front end. I think for glass breaking is the idea, but not all of them have that. But on the rear end, they have the sawtooth twist on.
Yep.
And they were effective. There's enough of them out there that they're going to continue to be effective even when they get worn out. I don't know how long they last. Like, I know nothing about any of that, but there's big thumbs up for me on those.
Yeah, the thing that was really noteworthy that you mentioned is the diameter. With volume, you can make a lot of shit work really, really well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the old Soviet designs literally look like fender washers, you know, the big fat washers with the little hole. Those welded in at alternating 45s along a little, you know, couple pieces of strips of metal at the top and bottom. And you can, when those wore out, you can just chuck a new core in. And I wonder if that's what they're doing. But awesome. Thanks for the that's a lot of information you gave.
All right.
So the other thing to that too is I think they are doing better stuff than that though, because there's a company that we talked to, because we ran M14s with our unit, at least the Westerners did, and there's a company there that makes specific cans for specific guns in Ukraine proper. I never got a chance to get a hold of their cans, but they are known on YouTube. They're known on Instagram. I can't remember their names, and if I can, I'll shoot you a link or a something.
Sweet.
But they're definitely more advanced than just some dead space, I think.
Very cool.
Edward, tongue for twisting, ask, how safe did you feel? We kind of touched on that while you were going around town there, but maybe outside the perimeter. How much security did you need? Did you bring American bodyguards? Would you go back? Did you feel like you accomplished your goal with training them? Did the soldiers say how they felt about the war?
Could we break that into a couple different?
Yeah. So let's go back to the how safe did you feel? We talked about in city. What about outside when you were leaving the perimeter?
Pretty safe. I mean, you see leaving a perimeter, that's like, our perimeter of our house, where we are today or where you are. That was the perimeter we had. We're fenced in on our house in Kyiv. We go train, we come back. That's our area. If you go to the front, then obviously that expands and that changes. And I with every Ukrainian soldier that I worked with or spent time with, I felt 100% safe. Absolutely. No question about it. When things went sideways and we started getting incoming or we get into a gunfight and they weren't around to either translate or tell me what the fuck was going on, I felt very unsafe. But when they're there to be like, hey, like, we got to go, you're like, all right, cool. Like, we got to go because I know that you're taking care of me, because they know that I know that if an American gets hurt in an area that we're not supposed to really be in, they get in a shit ton of trouble. So their utmost priority is to make sure that we're safe, and then they're safe second.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
And I wouldn't think that you had any bodyguards or security or anything like that other than maybe the people that were assigned to you, like you just said, to translate and keep you going in the right direction. Did you feel that you accomplished your goal with training them?
Yes, 100%. So we had a cool anecdotal story after our training with the SF unit. They took us all to this fantastic restaurant. We had the best ribs I've had in my life. I think we drank like 5 or 6 bottles of whiskey. One of the guys said, hey, do you like moonshine? And I was like, I love moonshine. The Ukrainian moonshine? He goes, yeah. I'll be right back. I'll just do an interpreter. He fucks off for like a half hour, comes back with this big ass 2-liter bottle of, looks like water. It's fucking not. And
best
starts pouring
us
shots. And we're just drinking Ukrainian moonshine, have a good time. They gave me a plaque and a flag. The guys are signing the flag. I'm taking pictures with them. Like it's a pre-deployment party. Like you would think back in way back in the day. We haven't had that since the GWAT, but what was the movie? We Were Soldiers. Remember the scene when they all get deployment orders and they go, get your dresses on, we're going to war. And like the wives had to like put the face on and like go do the party before the guys went out to Vietnam. Like that's what this was for them and their families. So it was super cool to see like that side of it.
How they got ready to go out and
yeah.
Did the soldiers say how they felt about the war? Did you get any feedback on their feelings of why they're fighting this?
They feel like they're going to win. There's lots of things I can tell you outside of recording, but they feel like they're going to win, and they're willing to do what it takes to do that.
So they're 100% behind this.
To them, it's an unprovoked war of aggression, and they're protecting their homes and their families, and they're dialed in.
That's the way they're approaching it now. Yeah, very good. I don't think there's really any other questions other than just firearm. I mean, obviously, we're a firearm show, and people love to hear about guns and things that go bang. As far as you personally. In your mission there, going into it and then coming out, did you have any different perspective or mindset as to the reason why you were going there in the first place, and then on your return, reflecting back, did anything change as far as your perspective on it?
Yes and no, I guess. Why I went, solid, good to go. No question about that. Being there though, like it's a real war. It's not you read about it on the internet, you watch things on TV, but it's a real war. Like, and I'd never experienced this before. This is a new experience for me, even with all my time in combat in the wars that I've fought in. When you hit an actual meat grinder, it is the definition of that word. And it's something that, you know, as a society, I wish we could stop doing these things to each other. I'm a big fan of like shooting people in the face. Like, I see you, you see me, I get the step on you, and I can kill you before you kill me. And like, there's a respect in a warfare level of that is important. Whereas mortars, artillery, drones, suicide bombs, these kind of things, like it's a who it may concern, you know. And
how's the Air Force coming into play? I mean, is there any air warfare going on?
There is. It's touch and go.
So you don't hear much about that.
The Ukrainian Air Force, I never saw any of. It's more so the Russian military is afraid of the Ukrainian Air Defense Forces, as they rightly should be, because they're smoking the fuck out of them. But at the same time, no, they're not. You know, there was a moment, and I have on video, we were at a training site doing our jobs, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, 2 Russian helicopters are on their way. We got to get the fuck out of here. And I was like, okay. That's all you got to say. Packed up all our shit, and we're out within 3 minutes. And like on the way out, I'm in the back of this like cargo truck, like civilian cargo truck, and I'm like, well, okay. So 2 Russian, I think they're called alligators, those weird counter-rotating rotary attack helicopters they have. Like, we heard that 2 of those were on their way to us because we'd seen them in the distance, and apparently they spotted us, and so we get the fuck out of here. And I was like, well, this is happening. We got to go. And the truck stalled in the mud because it's starting to get like thing. And I was like, or maybe not. This might be the last video I ever take. Like, shit. So the threat is extremely real, but the actuality of it's pretty low. Because I don't know anything about aviation. That's not my strong point, but from my understanding, if those guys had pushed towards where we were, they were enough SAMs between us and them that they would have not made it.
Gotcha.
But the guys that we were with had enough wherewithal to be extremely concerned about our safety, and we're like, go, we got to go now. Like, I'm talking like mid-lesson. Hey, it's like, this is how you clear a corner. We got to go. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they were like, no, we're loading the truck right now.
Gotcha. So. And what's one of the biggest myths about maybe the war or something that's going on over there that you'd like to dispel?
Well, the one that initially comes to mind is the Russian propaganda bullshit. Like, oh, we're over the Nazi takeover of Ukraine. Like, there's some right-wing people here or there, don't get me wrong, but it's not like there's fewer there than there are here in the U.S. Let's put it that way. Like, it's not that big of a thing. And I don't know if this kind of goes along the line with that, but like the whole idea that Russia keeps pushing the narrative and they change it. Like, oh, this doesn't work, then this doesn't work, then this doesn't work, then this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, to justify what they're doing. And the Ukrainian people are sitting there the whole time going, we just don't want to get killed. Like, that's fundamentally the whole thing. It's like, you don't read in the propaganda from either side. Everybody always pushes something. Mm-hmm. But I've watched family members and listened and have translated phone calls while I was sitting there of people who live in Russia and their sons and their daughters or their mothers from Ukraine conversing about the justification of what's going on, and immediate family members can't even delineate and convince their own people about why they're doing what they're doing. People in Russia, oh, you guys are doing this. This is so fucked up. No, Mom, like, this is what's happening. These are what we're seeing. This is is what's going on. I don't believe that at all. That's just erroneous. There's no way that could be happening. The Russian people are here to liberate these people. They're doing this, or with fathers and sons, and the Ukrainian people that I've seen, at least interacting with, just want to go back to a normal life that we have here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
They had it before, and they want it again. And until the war is over, they can't.
Well, it's pretty easy for me to understand that level of disconnect culturally between the two families, because certainly we see a lot, like Moscow mimics the national demographics, by which I mean it's almost dead nuts down the middle, liberal versus conservative, and urban versus agrarian. And I think the agrarian versus urban divide is actually the most serious one in this country, and the real underlying difference between the two versions of reality. But Scott Adams wrote a great book on the psychology and persuasion techniques of Trump called Win Bigly. And he has this great introductory chapter called 2 Movies, 1 Screen. And he goes through and he's like, well, in 2016, half the country was acting purely irrationally, and the other half elected the savior of the country. He basically makes a very good case that both sides were acting very irrationally, not just one. And there's certainly, it's fascinating, and I don't have a lot of answers behind it. And obviously I come down on one side and not the other. But it seems that reality is this sort of shared conversation where we're all talking with each other like nodes in a network to come up with this sort of collective sense making about what the truth is. And right now, the left and the right have completely different versions of reality, totally different. And so in a war zone, I can just imagine that being amplified even more so.
Yeah, I wanted specifically not to bring up U.S. politics into
Understand. Yep.
Because it honestly, I mean, if you want to be super serious about it, it's a direct look in the future, and that terrifies the shit out of me, And there's a 1,000 steps we can take before it ever gets to that point. But the fact that we're sitting here in the world that we live in, and the political views of people that are at war right now and fighting a very massive, very costly war, is not that far-fetched from where we sit politically as a country.
Sure. Yeah.
And
totally agree.
That terrifies me.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifies me.
And now that you brought that up, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in the conversation, all these billions of dollars that are going to this effort, and where's it going? It's not visualized on what we're seeing. A lot of theories going on about the money laundering, not only for the Ukrainians but also American, the politicians and the oligarchy here that we have, that they're dumping that in and it's getting laundered and it's going to other bank accounts throughout the world. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, why don't you answer that? And I had kind of a comment after that.
Oh, that's a question for me. Shit.
Not necessarily a question. It's just it's one of those things that we're hearing here, but maybe that you haven't heard it in the news because you said you're not been listening to the news much. But
no, it's a very valid statement. There is a very unaddressed corruption issue within the Ukrainian government in general. It's like one of those. It harks a lot to what we're dealing with right now, and I don't want to go too far down this road, and we can go as far down or pull back as possible.
As much as you're comfortable.
Okay, so Go ahead.
Sorry, let me cut in because I see you doing something really consciously, and I want to back you up in it because my dear departed friend James Yeager did the same thing you were doing over there. And he was very clear, which I hear you being somewhat less, he was pretty famous for being blunt, and you're being a little more nuanced in how you describe it. But his big thing was that he was there for everyday people who didn't want to die. And he was training Ukrainians to survive a war zone. And what I hear you saying over and over again is exactly the same thing, that you were going there to help individual people. You weren't there on behalf of a government. You were trying to help people survive a really dangerous situation. Am I putting words in your mouth, or is that about what you're trying to say?
No, it's extremely valid. That is correct. To the point of, once again, anecdotal conversation. We had a group of guys that we were working with, and they were dicking off in the woods, as we all were, because you can only put soldiers out in the woods for so long before they go fucking crazy sitting there at a
shenanigans ensue. Yeah,
like how fake are we gonna fucking make this fake shit? And they didn't listen. I lost my fucking shit, and I was like, "Look, guys, like I'm here. I'm not being paid to be here. I'm not. I don't want to be here. I'm at the same risk as you guys. I'm just taking the wars that I have in my pocket, and I'm trying to teach it to you so that way you guys don't die. So when you go home, you can make grandbabies. You can make babies. You can have a wife. You can have a life. You can do these things. So if you don't want to fucking pay attention to me, that's fine. Go fuck yourselves. But those of you that do want to pay attention to me, let's have a conversation and let's discuss why the things that I'm telling you about are going to make you live longer." And it was that for me. It was a very personal. I want to teach this guy to stay alive. If you don't, I can teach 50 guys. If 48 of them don't want to listen, I can't help that. But 2 guys, that's 2 lives that my life lessons have kept in the world and above ground breathing. And that's important to me. And that was the whole goal of everything.
And please don't mistake what I would just said as a reflection on you, because not at all. You've made it perfectly clear why you were over there and your intentions. But I guess more so, again, the money that's going over there is not going to what it's intended for, and obviously that's reflective in the gear and equipment and the ammo and the defensives that they could have or should have.
So
I just wonder if you were hearing anything over there.
Like that at all. I don't want to make you think that. I just kind of Brian sent me down this mine train, and I just kind of followed.
He's good with it. He's good at that.
What I meant was, so there's also a very valid question. Zelensky is softly known through the entire country as being corrupt. Yeah. Like it's not a thing. Like,
yeah.
It's just no.
They know it's a fact, and that's a fact that's the way governments are run over there.
We don't talk about it, but it's just
yeah. But here's something I didn't know either: is that he was an actor. He was a comedian. Yep. He's actually a comedian. Yep. I didn't realize that, and he has no political background whatsoever. He's like Ronald Reagan taking office, except he's not Ronald Reagan.
It's even better than that. He played like Martin Sheen on The West Wing, but in Ukraine. So he like on 24. I forget the actor's
Sutherland.
name who played what's that?
Sutherland. No,
not Sutherland. The black dude that played the president.
Oh, he was in Major League. That guy, Serato.
Boy, I'm not sure. That's going too far back for me. I'm not sure.
You never watched Major League?
Neil and I were like 5 when Major League came out.
Because Major League had Charlie Sheen in it also, but it also had the guy that you're talking about.
Okay. So yeah, imagine that guy ran for political office and won. That's the situation with Zelensky in Ukraine.
But he's a comedian.
He was a comedian too, totally. Like a schlocky, he wasn't
like Monty Python. He had this comedian group that they would travel around and do their little shtick, and then they started a TV network, and they started making TV shows, and He did a couple of movies, and yeah, I mean, right up until his, and like you said, he played this political figure that he was kind of, I think he was a president in that TV show. And then I guess, people saw him as a presidential figure and he got elected.
Like, have you seen his PR stunts that he's done?
I haven't.
Dude. By stunts, I mean like full on, like good moves. But he went, as soon as Kherson, last 4 days was evacuated. Where was he? Boom, right there. Camera crews, filmography, lights, everything. I'm in Kherson. I'm here. I'm at the fucking place. Like, I'm at the civic center. Like, where you saw Russia's flag yesterday, Ukrainian flag is here. The president's now here.
Yeah.
But he's doing all these PR moves, and he's doing these things that actors know how to do. And I can't fault him for it because it works. Because guess what? Us in the West, what do we want? We want a good public figure for the war we're fighting, and guess what? They deliver it to us on a fucking hand platter.
Entertainment.
And we're fighting the Russians. We've been trying to do that for 70 years. Like, he's like the little messiah that could, I guess,
Yeah.
That they,
Well, it makes sense to me now, again, why he's so good in front of the camera. I just never did any research on the dude before. And then I got to reading up on it. I'm like, holy shit. I mean, this totally makes sense. What's going on with this guy, and, again, looking at his net worth prior to, and then where he's at now with his, net worth is like, yeah, he's there for the money.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he's just happy to get elected, and all of a sudden he's like, fuck, there's a war. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I make the best? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to justify anything he's doing, but I mentally understand how an actor who became a president of a country, when the second biggest, strongest military invades your country, and all of a sudden you're winning. I'm like, dude, PR fucking stunts all day long. All day long.
He's never let a tragedy go to waste. He's one of those kind of guys.
Exactly.
Milking it for all it's worth. We are running long on this, and I don't think we're going to have time to do the new guy questions. I would really like to do the new guy questions with you, Neil. So,
can I close out with the story though? If we're gonna,
yeah,
I've actually like a heart-wrenching, important story to me that I would love to
absolutely,
to tell
and that's where we want to go with this. So, unless there's anything else.
Otherwise, we can do some new guy stories, and then we can come back to this. But I just
no. We're 2.5 hours in this, so, and I know Brian's got to go, and I'm sure you do too. But let's end this conversation with a story from you, Neil.
So this kind of hit heavy for me. So when I was in Donetsk, the whole point of me going out there was I was supposed to train 10 snipers. That had already been trained by the Canadian forces beforehand, and they'd gone through some schooling but needed more advanced schooling. And like I said before, the night before I got there, they got hit real heavy by the Russians. They lost 150 dudes. And so obviously the snipers couldn't get pulled off the front. So I was there for a week, and the last night I was there, I was finally able to meet the sniper the sniper team leader, the section leader. And it was probably the most touching moment of the war for me personally, just based off of my experiences in life. So, this guy, we were sitting in an apartment. He came up, and it was probably about 1 a.m, and it looked like a kid came in. Got blood on his face, a very dirty multicam uniform, had some gear on, took it off. We're talking. I was talking to my interpreter. It was also the girl I was instructing at the time. And I was like, hey, tell me about him. And she goes, oh, well, he's 23. It's like, okay. And sniper section leader. I was like, okay. He's been fighting for 6 years. And I was like, wow. Shit, okay. Because I'm like, why is this child sitting in front of me? Why is he bleeding from his face? That's obviously not his blood on his face. So I'm like, hey, what's going on with the blood? Oh, well, one of his guys on his team got hit earlier today, and he hasn't had a chance to clean up. I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, then why is he here? Like, I am the last person that he needs to talk to in the world. He needs to go eat. He needs to go shower. Like, it's just take care of yourself, bro. She goes, no. It's very important for him to come meet you. It's like that. It's not, but I appreciate that value. And so he has some chai, normal tea, cookies and stuff, and he leaves. And so I'm talking to my interpreter who's friends with him. And I'm like, hey, so like, tell me about him. What's going on with him? And she tells me, he's like our little puppy. He's always dirty. So whenever he comes here, we clean him. And I was like, oh, that's cute. I'm like, so tell me tell me about tonight. Like, so it's like, what, 22, 23? Oh, yeah. Okay. So how long has he been fighting for? 6 years. That puts us back to 2014. Where's he from? It was the city outside of Kyiv that it had it was like the massacre of the war.
South or what?
It was north near Kyiv. I want to say Bucha.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So and she was like, he's from Bucha. And I was like, holy fuck. It's like, okay. So, he's 23 years old. He's from Bucha. Been fighting for 6 years. I was like, what happened? Like, was blood on his face? She goes, oh, like she told me one of his guys got hit earlier. And I was like, fucking Christ. But I remember, and I tell the story to talk about him because he's a young kid doing a man's thing for the last 6 years and like putting a hurt on the Russian army. Like the dude is, I'm not saying Vasily Zaitsev level, but like the stories I heard about him, like he's pretty goddamn close. But I was sitting there and when I was 23, I was a sniper team leader. I've been fighting for 6 years. I was from Anchorage, Alaska. Like I don't have that background, but I remember looking at him and going, I was you in the U.S. military almost 20 years ago. And I remember when I came home from Iraq in 2004 and 2006, I had the old guys coming to me and going, you're so young. You're a child. Like, what are you doing? And I was all of a sudden the guy telling him that. Being like, you're the, like, and it was just I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. Like, it was such a surreal experience sitting there and talking to a dude that is doing what I did on another level. I'm not even trying to compare myself to what he's doing, but being at that age and having somebody tell them, like, you're a kid, and being the kid and going, I'm a fucking man. This is what I do. This is my job. I'm proud of what I'm doing right here. If I can do this better, I will spend the rest of my waking days to do it better. And looking at that in his eyes and knowing that the thought process going on in his head, but being the old guy and going, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, you were a kid. You should not be living this life. You should not be doing these things, And that's what sat with me the most of this entire experience. Is that non-conversation with this guy that I had entirely in my head based off of my own experiences and my understanding about him. And the fact that is not an outlying thing in Ukraine. That is probably the rule, less the exception.
And in human history, we've had Eric Weinstein calls it the Great Dream. The post World War II to a couple years ago, and that we're waking up from. And all of us have some, there's a whole bunch of realities that us as I'll use the word privileged because it's the right word, not because it's woke. We've had a really privileged existence in the United States. And all of a sudden, a bunch of us are having to contemplate what the rest of our lives could be like. And I think the easiest years of my life are over. And yeah, we live on kind of a razor's edge. There's that thin red line that people talk about that's a very real friggin' thing. And there's this chilling line in 1984 that if you want a vision of the future, imagine a human or a boot coming down on a human face forever. And like, yeah, there's some very heavy realities about living and I didn't understand the human condition, what that phrase meant when I was a young man. And I'm starting to understand what it means now. And it is not easy. There's some harsh shit there. And I've never been downrange, so I have no way of knowing your experience. But it was very impactful, that story. So thanks a lot for sharing it.
Yeah. Humans are terrible.
Yeah.
And wonderful. That's that human condition thing. It's a total dichotomy. And it's really brutal because the number of things you can say with certainty about humans and have them be 100% true, there's almost nothing you can say. We're one big dichotomy, and that whole yin and yang thing that Peterson is always talking about with chaos and order. And it's wild. And we're not in charge. That's for damn sure.
Well, Neil's the living example of that. And, when it's time to go to war, man can be a warrior, but when it's time to be generous and giving and kind, and he's demonstrated that by going to this foreign country that we really have no business being there. I mean, there are reasons, but and donating his time and his skills to these people that are literally fighting for their lives, that are being aggressed upon for greedy political reasons. And these people are caught in the middle of it, and he has donated his time to go and show them how to survive as best they can. And, again, showing both sides of the human spectrum there. And I really appreciate you coming on, Neil, and sharing the story with us, with our listeners. And Brian, you taking the time to come on and, offering your huge intellect and perspective. I mean, because you do bring a very unique perspective to situations like this that we don't get to see or hear in the media. The news, the way that they're broadcasting it, and Neil's firsthand perspective, I guarantee you, for our listeners, is contrast to everything that we're hearing in the news. So appreciate you doing that, both of you being on and leducating us, leducating the uneducated, as we like to say here. Neil, I want to have you back because I want to do the new guy questions with you, because they're so fun. So we're gonna have you back on. Maybe we'll get you on the final AK corner, and maybe we'll do some stuff there when we give away. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we're giving away another BFT 47 from Century Arms, Leadheads. We're going to be selling tickets for that to raise money for the Sheepdog Impact Assistance. We're going to do a raffle. I'm going to give you all the info on that. It's coming soon, so be listening, pay attention. And then also for our 10-year anniversary, we're going to have a big giveaway. We're going to get all our friends, the show, all our sponsors together. We're going to have some awesome prizes, and we've already started kicking it off with Century Arms has put up an AP 5 9mm delayed roller. What is that called, Brian?
Roller lock something.
Blowback.
MP5 clone. They're awesome.
Right. Very similar to MP5s. They told me not to call it a clone because it's not an MP5 clone.
Okay, sorry.
No, I don't. I'm just going by what they told me. But so you get an idea if you're who don't know what it is. But go to their website; it's on there. AP5, it's awesome. They're like $3,000 or something. I mean, they're not cheap. And then our good buddies at IWI, Jeremy's put up a Tavor that we're going to be putting. Yeah.
Jeremy's my boy.
You were doing real good until right then. Just calm down, buddy.
Oh, come on. I like me some Jeremy Gresham.
Good old Jeremy, yep. So didn't flinch a muscle. I sent out the request to let everybody know I was going on, and he was the first one to respond. Just like that. He's like, Tavor, baby, right there. So we've got those. We got Mission First Tactical is going to be putting up. I know a bag and probably some holsters, and it just depends on who else does stuff. They'll throw up some cool accessories to go with the other prizes that we have, and our friends over at ASP USA have jumped in already with some, I think, flashlights, some CS spray, some other cool stuff, and they also upped their discount for you lead heads to 20%. You go to ASP USA, use the code LEADHEAD, all caps, and you're going to get 20% off anything on their website there. They've got the training guns, they've got the handcuffs, they got the batons. They got one of their batons over here. I really like my baton. Here's my baton.
Oh,
Shabam.
nice.
Do some knee slapping with that right there, baby. And then our other sponsors, go show Seal1 some love. Seal1.com, use the code LEADHEAD, get 25% off. And keep in mind, Black Friday and all the big sales are going on. So some of these codes, they may even be doing better stuff on their websites than our codes that we've got here. So go check them out. Could be some better deals floating around there. Their Instagrams, their websites. But Seal1.com, Leadhead, 25% off. Mission First Tactical, Leadhead, you get 20% off. They've got a new AR handguard that they've just released. You guys might want to go check that. It's new and improved over the previous ones. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but I plan to. 1776 United to get our logoed apparel with the classic Talking Lead logo and our Leadhead Brigade logo. You go to 1776 United, use the code Talking Lead, get 20% off. I know for a fact they've got some smoking deals going on their website, so go check it out for the Black Friday. You get even better deals there. Factory 47, good buddy James Bialzak. I call him Bizak. Factory 47. He does our AK Corner logoed items. I've got some around here somewhere, but you can go there and get the hoodies, the leadies. I don't have one here, but I got to get another leady. I left mine in Sturgis, so somebody in Sturgis got a nice Factory 47 big gulp cup of mine. You can go there, use the code LEADHEAD, get 10% off. Pete Pye at Defiant Munitions, I've seen he's been running some smoking deals, probably better than the code that we've got here, but it's a Leadhead also. You get 10% off if you use that code. But go check him out. He's been running some really good deals I've been seeing on social media, Defiant Munitions. IWI, go check them out. I'm sure they're going to have some smoking deals going on as well. Keltec, same thing. Leadhead, 15% off anything in their store, but I'm sure they're running some good deals over at Keltec too. And then Lockdown, our newest friend of the show, Lockdown, you can go there. You see awesome walls behind me that I've got my firearms. And, did you guys notice my deer rack that I've got there? I just got that this weekend.
Nice.
Had a nice harvest.
I noticed it before, but now I do. It comes out pretty good on video.
Yeah. So let me move my camera over there so you can. Nice 9-pointer that I bagged with that crossbow you see right there. Center point crossbow.
Sweet.
It's going to be a couple of weeks before I get my meat, but I'm looking forward to that tasty little harvest right there. But Lockdown, if you want a cool wall like that, they're going to be released next year, but they're going to give you Leadheads 15% off anything Lockdown on their website right now until whenever. And then you can also use it when these walls come out. 15% off. Use code LEADHEAD at Lockdown. They've got nice safe accessories. So they've got alarms. They've got some humidifier controlled things there. They've got gun racks, magnets, all kinds of cool stuff, accessories for your firearms and your safes. You go to Lockdown and get that. And then our good buddies at Occam Defense Solutions. Brian, you guys got anything planned coming up?
Yeah, we will absolutely be doing a Black Friday event, and it's going to be a real percent off of everything on our web store. Production on rifles is still on a pause, but we'll be coming back. We are at least going to do a small run in the next couple months here, and we will be publicizing that. We also have a I just dropped some pics on Instagram. Our adjustable gas block is now going to be available in a combo mode where it's got a front sight as well as the adjustable gas block. And so for you guys who like running traditional setups, that's going to be a really nice solution for you for running suppressed or running hot versus cold, like Neil going from Arizona to Alaska. Having adjustable gas when you make that big a jump, not so much down near Anchorage, but my friends in Fairbanks shoot when it's negative 60 out. Or they might have to shoot when it's negative 60 out. And the difference in ballistics between negative 60 and plus 50 or 40 is amazing. And I mean centigrade. So like 115 Fahrenheit to negative 60 Fahrenheit. That's a monster swing, and your bullets behave differently. Your gassing behaves differently. The other big place is with, well, competition shooters, with being able to tune your bolt carrier speed. Neil's a big fan of running. He's very particular about how he likes his guns gassed, and you can be too with an adjustable gas block.
There you go. Not that you're going to shoot as good or better than Neil, but it gives you the option to be able to.
You can try.
You can try. You're going to lose every time.
Oh, and of course, adjustable gas blocks most cool for cans, but I think everybody knows that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very good. And that's Occam Defense Solutions.com or OccamDefense.com?
OccamDefense.com. We finally broke down and bought it from the trolls that were hanging on to it, so made it easy.
Those bastards.
Yeah. Respect the con. That's smart.
I looked up AK Corner today, and somebody has stolen my AK Corner website. I was going to go ahead and get it. And with a K, AKKORNER. Somebody's already got it, bastards.
Oh, yeah. For anybody thinking of starting a business, buy your website before you name your business. Like, yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. No, and don't let it expire after you do it.
Facts.
Yeah.
Didn't Google? So one of the big companies found that out in the last 10 years.
No way.
Yeah. No.
I remember hearing something about that. Yeah.
No, it was. I want to say it was Google, but it wasn't.
What,
it was
like
something like that level of just massive company. They just forgot. Like it was like a 3-hour period, and someone bought it up for like $1,200 or some shit like that. Like something just astronomically low.
Man,
they
the
sold
fucking courts fucked them.
I did hear about this. Okay, totally. Yep.
Because they were like, "Yo, $30 billion," or something astronomical like that, and they were like, no. The court was like, "No, you can't do that." Like, I'm pretty sure I can because I own this, and they have to pay me for it. So I don't understand how that works, but some things are
because it's corrupt, it's crooked, and those people, grease.
Yeah. As George
courts.
Carlin said, it's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Exactly. But guess what club we are in? We're in the Leadhead Brigade, baby. And all our listeners get to take advantage of all these offers that our sponsors, our friends of the show, throw out there each and every day for you. So take advantage of those because if you're not using it, what's the old saying, Brian? If you don't use it, you lose it.
Something like that.
So go show all our sponsors, all our friends of the show, love our guests like Neil. Hit them up on their social medias if they have them, their websites, and let them know how much you appreciate them being on the show. They love to hear from you, and that's how we get them back on. By showing
Send nudes. Send Neil lots of nudes.
For his lonely trips between bus rides from Poland to Kyiv.
I'll tell you what, ain't nothing lonely going from Warsaw to Kyiv.
Hey, we got to talk about this Tinder, so we're going to sign off. You're going to give me some Tinder points.
Look, that's probably the best ride ever.
The mask slips. I dig it.
So, Leadheads, have a great Thanksgiving. I hope everybody gets lots of turkey and potatoes and dressing and whatever your favorite Thanksgiving Mine's like green bean casserole. I love my mom's green bean casserole, so I'm looking forward to that. And I hope everybody doesn't get fleeced, with the inflation and everything. So I hope everyone's able to enjoy their Thanksgiving. And while you're doing that, Leadheads, as always, remember, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms closer. But remember, don't talk politics during Thanksgiving. That's the best way to ruin the weekend.
Because that's just damn rude.
Unless you're in a family of liberals.